I guess circling back to exploit, one of the biggest things that I've had with it, right, is I love my career. I love my job. I love my career. I love my skill set. I love what I do. But I also love cyber, and I like AI. And I have like a bunch of different interests, but they all kind of circle back to tech. I've been a tech geeky since I was a kid, and now as an adult, it's like, well, why don't I? So exploit, I'm hoping to push it where I have the news content. I'm hoping to push out some more technical content at some point, some educational content.
This is Hackers to Founders, a podcast about cybersecurity professionals who have reached the pinnacle of their cybersecurity expertise and have ventured into new frontiers, whether it's launching innovative startups or making impactful investments in our industry. My name is Chris Magistrato, and I'm a vulnerability researcher best known for traveling and meeting hackers from all around the world. And I'm using what little extrovert skills I have to introduce to you hackers that are changing the world.
Welcome to the Hackers to Founder podcast. Today we are thrilled to bring on Lauro Perez joining us, and he is a seasoned software engineer and cybersecurity enthusiast with a strong technical background in C#, RabbitMQ, and Elastic Stack. His experience spans building and maintaining complex distributed data systems, and he has a keen eye for system architecture and fault tolerance. Lauro's passion for cybersecurity drives him to continuously deepen his understanding of data processing and analytics, especially in geospatial and microservice applications. Beyond his technical achievements, he is also the host of the great show Exploit Brokers, a podcast series dedicated to unpacking the nuances of cybersecurity. Through Exploit Brokers, Lauro shares valuable insights on industry-changing trends and innovations, making complex topics accessible and engaging for a broad audience. Join us as we dive into his journey with Exploit Brokers and explore how he's making an impact in the cybersecurity community. Welcome to the show, Lauro.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, of course.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. And if you're on Spotify, please give us 5 stars. Thanks.
I'll just start by how we met. I reached out to you. I think I sent you a message, and then I was like, hey, would love to chat with you. And then we just kind of started going. We had a call about 2 days ago, and we just chatted at least for like an hour and just like kind of going into it. That was super fun. How about we do this? Just like we start all the shows when we talk about your upbringing and then like how you got into computers and even cybersecurity, if that's early on, or just talk about how you got into computers and basically your upbringing.
Sure. So, like every hacker geek that I've ever heard, I've essentially got a computer when I was like 10, 11. It was a Windows XP, but it was like the CRT monitors that were like really massive dinosaurs too. And I just started playing around. I saw command line, didn't know what it was, looked cool. And around that time, it's when I started hearing about like, little whispers of malware and viruses and hacking and stuff like that. But I never really got really hardcore into that. I liked it, but I didn't have any mentor. I didn't have anything. I was a really geeky school kid, always straight A's, do all that, right? And then as I got to high school, I found out about 0 days. And that's where like some of my like eyes lit up, because I'm like, what? You can get paid like $1 million? And this is back when it was $1 million. Now I think it's like 2. You can get paid $1 million for like hacking Apple. I'm like, that's super cool. And you can hijack it. So like money aside, just the idea of being able to hijack something without anything was just super cool. So I was like, okay, let me look into this. And I even remember like at the time I was majoring into like hacker culture, but I didn't have any friends who were into it. So it was just one of those things like, I just read it, liked it. I even remember telling one of my high school teachers, like, hey, web dev is cool, but check out, you could like hack Apple for like $1 million.
There you go. Yeah. What did they say when you mentioned that?
So she looked at me like, are you sure that's something you want to do? I'm like, well, I don't know if I can, but I want to. And it was just really interesting. And the cool part about that one, I don't know if it was that or another class, but when I was just about to graduate, they were doing like, oh, what would you like to tell the administrators or whatever? And I brought in part of the Hacker Manifesto into that.
Really? How did you discover it?
Oh, man. Probably on like some random skitty forum, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, I know I found it somewhere. It was either on like a skid forum or something else. I mean, who am I kidding? I was a skid back then, hardcore.
I was about to say, like, no one was calling skids back then. There were script kiddies, and like, I think it's like more like, dare I say, Gen Z, like, way of saying skid. Were you calling yourself a skid back in that time when XP days, or was it?
I wasn't even. I wouldn't have even considered myself a script kiddie because I couldn't even script. So I was just like a tool bandit or whatever. Yeah. That's probably not even a phrase, but that's fine.
Coin it here first.
So like I brought that up in the thing because pretty much fell asleep in a lot of my high school classes. It was boring. I was staying up till 2, 3 a.m. playing games or Googling or just doing random stuff. So then,
What games did you play?
Embarrassing enough, I was part of a clan once or twice. But I used to play a lot of Gears of War and Gears of War 2. I love stuff like Dead Space 2, but like I couldn't finish it. It just freaked me out too much. It's like I would play at like 1 a.m. lights out and just
Put the headphones on and be like just purposely try to freak yourself out.
No. It was that was high school, right? So right there, I was like, okay. So I thought this was super cool. And around the times actually when I met my now wife, my girlfriend at the time when we were about to graduate. So from there, I went to college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was a math major. I was like a business major, chemistry. And then I was like, okay, hey, this would be really cool. Let me take a computer science class because I really wanted to be a hacker. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can find out what this is. And I kid you not, maybe a third of the way through the semester, I ended up withdrawing from the class, freaked out and stressed because I couldn't get it. And it was like C and C++. And I just couldn't get it for the life of me. Like, okay,
that's fine. That's hard anyways. Like, you know it now, right? You've learned C now or you have more understanding of it, or it's still difficult?
Yeah. So that was at one university. When I came back, like I did probably 2-3 years of C. So like at this point, I can definitely run my way through C. But at the time, it was like, oh man, this is horrible. I can't get this.
Do you think it was the teacher? Or do you think it was like the teacher's bad at explaining? Does teacher's bad personality, or like you were a bad student in studying? Combination. I don't think it could be a combination of both or all of it, because if you're getting A's before, then like it seems like your study habits were pretty strong. So like, any idea what that might have been?
So it was a combo of two things. And I'm pretty sure I've heard buddies tell me that they've had similar experiences. The teacher didn't teach. So the teacher was like, hey, he split us up into groups. And it was like, you learn chapter 1, you learn chapter 2, you learn chapter 3, and then teach each other. And I was like,
That's horrible. How does that work?
So like between that and just like I felt, like I didn't know what I was doing. So I just withdrew from the class. I could have probably pulled off a C or maybe a B if I really would have stuck to it. But I'm like, I have no idea how to learn this. And this teacher wasn't. And if you've ever had like my math lab or anything like that, there was like a my code lab, which just made me feel even like I don't know this. So I pulled out from that and I was like, okay, let me try JavaScript. So I started playing with JavaScript and I took a year off from college because some stuff happened in my life. And that's fine. Like I remember like I was at a call center for a bit and I was reading through a SQL book. And I'm like, okay, I kind of understand SQL, but I don't know what this does. And then that's where me and my wife were like, well, she wanted to move up to where I'm stationed now, somewhere in Texas. And it was like, well, I want to go with you. I really, we were dating almost 3 years at that point.
Were you not in Texas prior, or where were you before?
So I was in a border city. I was in Laredo, Texas.
Okay.
So I like to say it's a small city, but I've met people from small cities. So it's just a very big city that doesn't have anything like entertainment wise or anything like that. Like compared to like San Antonio, Austin, those are like major like entertainment and cool stuff. And Laredo's really cool for export and stuff, but not entertainment. So she's like, oh, I want to move up, but hey, we should, we've been together 3 years. I'm like, oh, okay. I saw where she was kind of like heading out. So I went and I proposed. So we were like, okay, we got, we're going to get married.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thanks. We actually got married and within 2 weeks we were at the University of Texas, San Antonio. So like literally it was like, get married, go into school. And I remember my first semester was super frustrating because it's like, oh, well, you're going to do Java, but you need to do this like intro 101 before you do all these other classes. So that kind of went super easy.
What major were you at the time?
So remember how I said that I was like, oh, I hated computer science. I couldn't do it. I just said, whatever. I just did computer science major straight. So I was literally better at chemistry and math and anything else except computer science, but I really still had the idea of being a hacker. And then UTSA is supposed to have like a really good cyber program. So I'm like, cool, sink or swim. So the first semester was slow, but then second semester is when things started to pick up because at that point it was already, I think I took a C class. And then the last 2 years were like the major blur. At that point, I was programming like 12 to 14 to 16 hours a day. And some random days, other days were like, 8 hours. I had 2 jobs. I was doing actually security for the university. I had landed
Like physical security?
Active Directory Administration was what I
Wow,
did
that's
for,
really impressive. That's really good too. That's a really good foot in the door.
I think I was there for 10, 11 months before I got my full-time job as software. But I was like, I really like this. And they had a position opening. And I'm like, cool, let me go here. And I applied. And it was a part-time job. And I had the previous guy train me up. And he actually gave me a really cool perception of it, which is if you're in cyber long enough, you'll eventually get paranoid. And I'm like, oh, I like that. Where you just get paranoid. You hit like that threshold where suddenly like everything can get hacked. You're going to get hacked.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of jumping ahead on that one. So, before I got to there, right, one of the other things I was doing was robotics research almost. It was a bit more of like undergraduate research just to help undergrads get a feel for research and stuff like that. And I was super grateful for that professor because at the time we had like no money. So like I was running 2 jobs, full-time school, and sleeping like 5 hours a day for like a year or 2.
Yeah. Wow. How much was your guys' rent at the time?
I think about 1,300.
For the 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
So it was student housing. So it was like 6 something each, but she had to pay and I had to pay. Okay. But then we were going okay. She was doing her studies, and just before my final year, she started having some health issues. So, and we got pregnant. So,
wow.
Yeah. So like I had my first kid while I was still in college.
Oh, interesting. How was that?
Wonderful and stressful.
Yeah. I think it's the only 2 correct answers. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like I have 2 kids, love them. But like in the early days, it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, I was still she was born when I was in my IT admin job, and I was still doing the robotics. And then where I really got a peek of the cyber at the time, I had tried to do a different channel under my name for like, hey, I can teach you programming. Because at that point I had been programming for years and I got really decent at it. But then I got a job offer, or not a job offer. I got a scholarship offer in the middle of the night, like 11 p.m. And it was like, hey, we want to fly you out to California and we want to give you a scholarship.
For which university?
No, it was UTSA, but it was a government contractor. Who was like,
wow.
At the time, I didn't know it was a government contractor. It was called Great Minds in STEM or something like that. And they're like, hey, we want to fly you out, all this. And I replied, no, I'm okay. I have a lot of school and work. Thank you. And then I tell my wife, and she's like, no, you need to go. I'm like, oh, what? I need to go. And she's like, yeah, you need to go. I'm like, okay, cool. So I pretty much replied back like within 20 minutes of me rejecting, like, you know what? Hey, on second thought, I want to go. And that was like the turning point, I think, for my entire career.
Really? So, okay, yes. What happened? You flew out there?
Yes. So here's where it gets crazy. I didn't have a suit, dude. I didn't have anything. So
you didn't have a suit? Is what you say, suit?
I didn't have a suit. I didn't have like any fancy clothes. I was a broke college kid.
Sure, yeah.
With a kid on the way. Or no, at that point, my kid was born. So like I had like a 2-month-old wife, God. No money. And
how long would you be away for?
It was like 5 days.
Okay. So it's not like 6 months, a year or something. No.
It was just like five days. But it was the longest I've ever been away from my wife. And my wife can't drive. She has some disability with her eye. So she can't drive. And so she was like making the ultimate sacrifice for me to go. We put a suit on credit because that's all I had at the time. I was making like $12 an hour at my IT and then like a small stipend with the robotics thing I was doing. And whatever, financial aid or whatever. So I fly out. I'm like, okay, this is really cool. I got a scholarship. Maybe I can get a job with them. So I go with them and I sit down. And at first they're kind of like, so this is now in California. At first they kind of like, they're blowing me off a little bit. And I'm there trying to like, hey, so it turns out.
Did they fly other people out there as well, or were you the only one?
It was, I kid you not, dude, it maybe a couple thousand of people. It was a lot of people. It was at a convention center, some over there. They put people up in hotels. The funny part enough, I had a roommate, and that roommate I ended up working with later. at a research institute that I worked at right after I graduated, but he was telling me he was going to go to like, he had already job offers for like Lidos and all these other ones.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, which I get to because it was interesting. I got blindsided in a good way. So something I forgot to mention is on the email, they said there would be a job fair. So I'm like, maybe this is a way I can get a job, because everyone's concern trying to graduate is I need a job. So I go, and the sponsors are kind of talking to me, but they're kind of not paying attention. And then they find out I'm the computer science major, and they like 180. So it turns out they had given like scholarships to like mechanical engineers and all that, but they weren't super interested in them. They're interested in the computer science guy.
Cool. Nice.
So we start talking, and when we were talking about like 2 days ago, that's where I got a really cool interview without knowing it was an interview. I just start geeking out with the guy over IDA. He's like, "Oh, have you ever messed with IDA or whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, I've played with a little bit. Like, I think there's IDA free, and then I don't think Gidra was a thing at the time, but like I knew about."
What year was this? I don't think it was either.
This was 17.
2017?
Yes.
Okay.
Gidra might have just been.
Yeah, I think it maybe. I'll look. I want to know just to know, but please continue.
Yeah. So we were back and forth at the time, and it was like, "Oh, hey, do you know about this? Do you know about wearables?" I'm like, "Well, I have a rough idea based off like what I've learned." And then he's like, "Okay, so we work with, I don't think it's a problem to say it, but it was Lidos." And they're like, "Oh, hey, we have a team that does like vulnerability research, etc. And you would be doing something like wearables and stuff." I'm like, "That's awesome. Yeah, but it's an internship." So I'm like, "Oh, okay. I mean, that's awesome." I was super excited. Go call my wife. And then, so I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." I was super excited, and we're like, "We'll circle back later." And at that point I was in a suit, and I started going to the job fairs. And it's a bit of a blur, dude, but I think I did maybe 10 interviews back to back where I was just handing in my resume. And I ended up leaving that day with like 3 job offers.
That's
and that one internship.
Freaking amazing, bro. I've never even heard of results like that for anything like ever. Like we get 3 offers in the same day or even close to it. That's freaking terrific.
But it gets crazier. It gets so much crazier, dude, because the next day there's another round. And I go and I give out more of my resumes, and I get more like back-to-back interviews. And I think I left the entire conference with like 6 or 7 job offers.
So I think I would be terrible at being a host if I didn't ask, like, how did you do it? And do you have any like advice or skills for people that are, grinding in school and they're like, I need to go to a job fair? Like, what were some of the things that made you stood out to those companies?
What I got feedback from them was essentially, okay, so I guess to give you a bit of context, I grind a lot at my school. So I graduated with a 3.97 out of 4. So
wow, okay.
I think it's magna summa cum laude, whatever that one is. But I was also doing the security work. I was also doing the robotics undergrad program research. I had call center experience. Like I guess I impressed them because I was like really high computer science and a bunch of stuff. So what I would recommend and what I've seen with other people who've gotten good job offers is the 4.0 isn't necessary, but 3.5 seems to be the cutoff for getting in the door almost like smoothly, if you will. Like to get into a lot of HR, 3.5 is a nice cutoff. 3, you can still get stuff, but like 3.5 is kind of the magic number, what I've seen with a lot of different places. And then from there, it's do you interview well?
What about the experience that you had, like the call centers and working security? Do you think that also had a part to it or no?
So the security, I think a little bit, because at that point it showed like, hey, I can do something technical in the IT-ish realm, right? Because there's some shops that kind of lump software and IT together. So I think that might have helped me a little bit. But I think one thing, if I could give a like advice or anything to anyone who's up and coming, is the soft skills. So how can you present? How can you sell yourself? Because the resume only really gets you in to talk to somebody. Then it's how do you sell yourself to the prospective employer? You got to be just as good at selling yourself as your resume is at selling yourself.
And what are some tips that you have for selling yourself that help you?
When I was at one of my jobs, I was doing a lot of like interview. We pretty much did a lot of things. And the one thing I would say when it comes to selling yourself and resumes is don't try to get too fancy. It's ultimately what can you offer, right? So I've seen a lot of like, oh, well, I've done this and I've done that. But on the resume, some stuff just is like, hey, I sped up a pipeline, or I increased vulnerability research by 10% because I did X. That's like concrete example of how you can bring some kind of value to an employer. And then when it comes to selling yourself, you want to, I hate to say it, but you want to exude a little bit of confidence. You want to be comfortable with who you are and what your skills are, because it'll come across pretty quickly if you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Because even if you don't know what you're doing, you should have the skill set to figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some really good points. So on your resume, put some statistical information, like, you know, how you increased or helped the company, not about like what you were doing at the company, but how you increased revenue or decreased time in terms of operations, something. Put that in your resume. And then I always recommend like people to, before going into interviews, like try to like spend some time, like 30 minutes. So write down things that you've done at your work, or like challenges that had happened, and then how you overcame them. Because let me ask you this, like, was there in your interviews, did you ever go into like telling stories about like some type of incident or challenge that was at your work, and then that they saw that and was like, okay, this guy knows what to do in these types of situations? Or was it something else entirely?
For sure. So I've had both right? If you've ever had like technical interviews, or if your listeners have, right, it's, you got to have both skills. Where I have like buckets of stories of stuff that I remember that I thought would be cool, where like, you know, this thing broke and this is how I fixed it. Or we had like this major outage and this is how I pulled through something that did it. Like, okay, one super interesting example with my current job that I can kind of elaborate a little bit on is we had a major outage for give or take 2 or 3 days. And because it was 2 to 3 days, we had to find a way to recover everything. Well, it's a pipeline, so it takes a lot to recover. So I'm like, it's fine. I got it. And a couple of my other coworkers want to go do damage control. So I did a hackathon. I'm salary. It's fine. I did a hackathon. I created a quick tool, and that tool essentially leveraged some SQL stores that we had with some of the data. So it would be somewhat easy to recover, but we had to put it into our Elastic stack. So I made the tool, and then we just like cranked it full throttle, 4 instances of it, pushed it into a bunch of queues. And then our mechanism to push it up to Elasticsearch cranked up to like 15, 16 instances. We probably did like, I don't know, 500 million data points in like 3-4 hours to just get everything.
How much were you guys doing before?
So I think we can do, I don't know, couple million data points every couple minutes. I haven't done a recent performance check on it, but yeah, I think it's couple mil like data points a minute is what our pipeline can handle. And some of that is before I got it, and some stuff I've tweaked during my time. But having stories like that, right, where you can give a concrete, like, hey, this happened, and then I was able to recover it in this time, or I was able to do the performance improvement by 10, 20%. You know, I took it from 1 million signals a minute to 2 million signals a minute, because that's 100% improvement.
I want to jump in and say, like, yeah, if you grab like things about your company, like what they've done is successful, and like what they're having you do, even if it's seemingly mundane, sometimes you can spin the words, the phrases to make it sound better. I'm pretty good at that. If my audience ever needs some help, reach out to me, or just ask ChatGPT, like, hey, this is what I do. How do I make this sound better? And I think it'll give you some more advice on that. But yeah, it's exactly what you said. Like calculating the numbers of like how much like data points that you've had, and like being able to work on those types of projects too is a terrific opportunity. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, dude, you're good. You're 100% on point, where it's like, you got to be able to, and ChatGPT, I would say, let me finish the other thought. You got to be able to like pretty much say your story, say why you bring value to whether it's cybersecurity program or anything else. You have to kind of sell the employer like, hey, I'm going to be this valuable to you. And that's kind of where it goes. And ChatGPT, yeah, 100%. I recommend people use it as a starting point, though, because so many people are like, oh, it wrote it for me, copy paste. It's a great like starting point. And that's for anything. I use it randomly for like coding ideas. It's like, hey, I want to do this thing. It's just a really nice Google.
Exactly, and that's where our company, Top 30 Recruiting, comes in. Finding the right cybersecurity talent with the necessary clearances can be a major hurdle. Did you know that it could take 8 to 15 months on average to hire somebody with a TS SCI plus full polyscope? At Top Cleared Recruiting, we have a network of 1.3 million cleared professionals, ranging from C&O developers, reverse engineers, and data scientists. Whether you're working on offensive operations or data analysis, we connect you with the elite talent you need fast. Visit topclearedrecruiting.com and let us help you to find the perfect candidate, already cleared and ready to go.
Yeah, I've been using it like consistent. I've used it like ever since it came out. I've been using it like every day. But there's like certain things that I don't use it for. So like maybe I'll have it craft an email or do something like this. But then if you do it so often, you start seeing patterns and stuff like that. And like now, if I receive an email and I know that it's written by ChatGPT, I'm almost like, oh, what a lazy ass person. But where I have seen it shine is in difficult subjects. So like, you know, I'm 100% confident if you had ChatGPT when you were going through C the first time, you would easily understand and be so much better, because you can take difficult concepts and then say, hey, explain this to me in this language. Or if you like video games, explain this to me and this is my favorite video game. Like, it will contextually make the patterns for you because it understands those types of things. So I've been like, I'm doing like kernel stuff for Android and fuzzing, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is. Like, explain the methodology and break it down for me. And it helps so much. Anyways, I'll stop stroking GPT.
Yeah, no, it's for lack of more time on it. Yeah, I've done the same thing where it's like, hey, you know, I want to look into this one thing and tell me more about it. I think PyTorch was like one of the recent things. I was like, hey, what's broadcasting? And it would give me like just a random thing. So you could probably find it on Google, but it's just so much easier to like jump to the next idea.
Yeah, exactly. I've like almost stopped using Google I'm like, well, I could look this up, or I could just ask ChatGPT and it'll give me the answer quicker, faster, and more direct than going through a blog article and trying to find the stuff, whatever it is.
I'll still use blogs and stuff, but yeah, it's like,
I'll take the blog and give it a ChatGPT.
Problem I've had with ChatGPT, dude, is it introduces so much random noise sometimes where it's like, no, that's wrong. It's like, yeah, you're right. Here's how to fix it. No, that's wrong. Yeah, you're right. Here's how to fix it. And I'm there for
it's
like 5
yes
minutes.
Man. It does do that.
And I'm like, no, at that point I go to Google. So I do a mix because GPT, it's like I said, it's a good starting point, but that's it. That and Copilot, good starting points, but
I'm excited to, I know there's like some tools that kind of do this, but I'm excited to see like tools where I can give it a prompt and it'll show like 3 different LLMs or whatever. So that way I can see the responses for all of them and kind of like make my composite like analysis based on what I think is most correct or something like that, or like better prepared.
I've seen those. Yeah, those are pretty cool. I don't know if you want to circle back to what we're, because
no, yeah, please, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I love tangents. Okay, so by the second day I had like 6-7 job offers, but the crazy part is I still had some other interviews that weren't there. Because, okay, so one thing I forgot to mention, and this is the part where it's like I had a SpongeBob moment. At the end of the first day, I ripped my pants. I kid you not. Like in the literal sense, I ripped my pants. And those are like the pants I had just bought like a week before. But I had another pair that were like, they could be a decent substitute. So I went into the second round of interviews with a slightly mismatched, still looked like it went together suit. But it wasn't the original pants. And I say that because anyone that like, oh, well, I don't have, like, just if you're confident about what you're doing, a lot of the times you can kind of get by with stuff that wouldn't normally work. Like, you know, mismatched suit because your pants ripped the day before. So, okay, I finished that. I was pretty much get ready to go home. The internship with Leidos are like, no, we want to offer you a full-time job because I wanted to compete with the offers I had gotten. So I got one more conversion also at the end. And it was everything from like what they were telling me was flight simulation software in another state, vulnerability research in a different state. They started going through the gap, like every employer telling me like, oh, this is the project we're hiring for. And at the time, the vulnerability research was super like enticing because I really liked that idea. But I get home and then the following week, I get an interview with a local place, Southwest Research Institute. And there's where I was like, okay, I want to work there because I could stay close to my family. I had a buddy that was already working there. And he's like, no, dude, I think you got it. So I get there and they start talking to me about, you know, they have autonomous vehicles that are in the track in the back. It feels like out of a sci-fi movie what they start telling you.
Okay.
They had,
Did it feel like that when you showed up? I don't mean to cut you off, but like day one was that way?
So no, but yes, like they took me around a tour of the facility and they started telling me, like, they even have a fire tornado workshop that they do like fire research with, and they have like a bunch of really interesting stuff, and like they have a ballistics range on site. They have
like a shooting. Well, okay, ballistics range.
but
Okay,
no. Yeah, it's ballistics, but yeah, it's kind of shooting. I never got to see it, but it was really cool. They have so the original founder was a guy named Tom Slick. And this guy, like, he was that rich Texas guy. And I believe he had like a major thing where like he wanted to discover either not the abominable snowman, not the Yeti, Bigfoot. He wanted to find Bigfoot.
So as you do.
He built up a bunch of cool stuff. And now that place, when I left it, was like on a couple 100 acres, maybe 1,000 acres, 900-acre facility. And that's where that's where I wanted to get my start. Cause I'm like, okay, it's close to home. I love the idea of being a researcher and I love the idea of cyber. So I interview, and I like literally on the call home, I get a call and he's like, yeah, we're going to offer you. So just a heads up. And I'm like, that's what I want. And then I ask him, hey, can you do anything about me starting sooner? Because they offered me a student position. And so I started working with them while I was a student, but I had already my full-time offer. And I bring that up because I actually ended up dropping. I was a dual concentration, software engineering and cyber. And I dropped my concentration in cyber. I only needed like cryptography to go join them.
Okay. Wow.
So at that point, I'm like, cool, that's awesome. I'm like at 8 job offers and I'm like super excited. And then I got one more interview. And it was Lockheed in Fort Worth. So they fly me out like the week after. And this is like, I went from like, I don't know how I'm going to get a job. I have like a 3-month-old in the crib and a wife at home. And like, I went from like, I don't know what kind of job I'm gonna get to like 8 or like 7, 8, 9 off or somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah. Jesus.
So I get flight off to Lockheed and I'm super nervous, dude. They put me up in a hotel. They fly me out. And then I go through the interview and same thing, right?
How many, I'm going to ask the same question. How many people did they also fly out and put up in hotel rooms?
They're probably maybe 100, 200.
Damn, this is a lot budget. This budget's massive to find people. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was impressed right off the bat. Cause like when you went into the facility, you would walk through, I think it was the F-35 manufacturing plant. So they walk you through and it's like, that's the really cool stuff. Like you guys have to stick to like this little lane. You can't go in either way because you don't have clearance. I'm like, okay. So they walk you back into a thing. And I'm pretty sure they did it to show you like, hey,
it's like a psyops already. And they're like, oh yeah, don't worry about that, boys. Like,
yeah. So then we go, oh yeah. And then they had like, it was essentially like a speed interview dating kind of thing, essentially, where they just had a bunch of tables. They give you a number and then like these are the tables. When you get called, you're going to get called to a table. So I finally get called up. I go through the interview and the guy starts talking about my interests, and I go back and forth. And right off the bat, he's like, I want to offer you, but I can't because it's obvious that what you want to do doesn't fit here. But I got a buddy who's going to call you because he's going to want you. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's super cool. And ended up being, I ended up saying no to that one, but it was, I think, maintaining like the F-15 legacy code for navigation or something. I don't remember the specs at this point. But yeah, so, the interviews are over. I pretty much go grab some sushi, grab a flight home. And it was like surreal. This all happened in the span of like 2 weeks, where I got all these job interviews. I ended up denying everybody and accepting the Southwest research place, because I also had this idea like, hey, I want to go back for a PhD. So I say, no, thank you to all of them. And, they're all gracious in offering me, but I just had a different idea of what I wanted at the time. And then I start at Southwest, I go through, and that's where I get my first taste of like, okay, being a software engineer is a little harder than anticipated because now it's the world, right? You're not building toy projects. But around the time, I still get that itch for cyber. So they had clauses where you can't moonlight, you can't do outside work while you're working with them. And I asked them, hey, I just want to do a blog and this on the side. And they're like, sure, that's fine. You're just file this paperwork, you're fine. And I think I started Exploit around 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's 2019. And when did you start working at Southwest?
Technically November of 17 as a student, but full-time May of 18.
Of 18. Okay. So about a year later, a bit less than a year later than you started the blog.
Yeah, somewhere around there's when I started it. I had tried that one and then just a programming blog.
So you started the blog and then started the podcast, or you started them both at the same time?
Both at the same time. I think I lost episode 0, episode 1. I think when I migrated podcast hosts, I ended up I technically start at episode 3, and I don't know where the first 2 went.
Who are you hosting on?
Libsyn.
Oh, you're doing Libsyn, yeah, okay. I'm using Transistor. I like them so far. I don't know. I think it's one of those things once you get into one. Actually, you said you transitioned. So who were you using before?
I think they just got bought out by Spotify. I don't remember the name of for the life of me. I've been with Libsyn for a year now, 2 years now.
Okay. Any complaints or any feedback?
What was really cool with the previous one, I don't remember the name of it, is they would let you monetize super quick and super early. So I made 10 cents.
Oh, nice. That's always feeling good.
But I never got the cash out because it didn't cash out. So I technically never made the 10 cents, but it was cool. And with Libsyn, I think they have a monetization where I think I qualify now. I just haven't sent in the paperwork because it's do I want to throw ads or do I want to build out my own thing? And at this point, I'm well, I kind of want to build out my own thing.
Okay. Interesting. I'd take a look to see how much you could get. I'd be interested in seeing what the number is, but
yeah, I'm still super early on, but yeah, I'm kind of debating just seeing what I can get on that one. But then, okay, so switching back, while I was at Southwest Research, I was pretty much maintaining traffic systems for the state of Texas through a contract that they had, and then several other sister programs. And when I say traffic, I mean literally cars on the road. But I still had this itch for cyber. So I started the blog, I started the podcast, and then I failed. I couldn't do it. I got nervous. I didn't know. I felt like I wasn't going to be a good host. I pulled back. And then a couple months
later. So fail, you mean you just slowed down or stopped at the time?
I just stopped it. I think I've started and stopped the exploit 3 times, 4 times. And now I finally got in a nice run where okay, now I feel like I can just continue indefinitely. And that was this past year actually. But at the time I started the itch. So I was trying to do that. I couldn't get it off the ground. I was oh, maybe, I started looking into bug bounties. I started looking into just hack the box and a bunch of things because I really wanted to scratch that cyber itch. I had done cyber courses in college and I was I really like it. Had buddies who ended up at Amazon, AppMex, and they were doing cyber. And I'm that's super cool. And then at the time at Southwest, one of my buddies, he's hey, do you want to help me write this internal research proposal for hacking cars? And I'm what do you mean? And then we started talking back and forth. So we ended up writing a internal research that got funded. I didn't get to work on it, sadly. But it was internal research. Can we do a hacking of electric vehicle charging stations? Can we do a denial of charge? Can we do a overcharge attack, an undercharge attack? Just what could we do? And I ended up, me and him co-author it. I push it through. And that was actually one of the reasons I ended up going from I think a software engineer or normal computer scientist to a research computer scientist. Because at that point I had technically co-authored and I had been a lead and I had been pulling on many hats. And I'm okay, that's really cool. So I had a little bit of cyber. And then at the current place I was doing, I learned a bit of everything. So we didn't have dedicated DevOps or anything like that. So I was our database admin. I was our Atlassian pipeline admin. I was our installer admin.
Which company?
At Southwest Research. I was still there.
Oh.
But they were everything, right? So I think contributed some to internal requests. Pretty much when you go there, you are from support to sales at that when in the position I was in. We had a dedicated support people that would do it, but sometimes things were really off and they would message us. And so I'd be jumping on in the afternoon randomly oh, hey, here's a script. Because at the time they had different instances of SQL. So if you've ever had to maintain different, a 2008 SQL to a 2012 SQL, certain things just, you think it works and then they deploy it on the 2008 SQL and it's no, that command was created in 2012. And it's oh man. So you got to go rewrite it quick because there's downtime on a critical system. So I had patches out in 10 minutes where it's okay, here, just switch it to this and it'll work. So I was doing stuff there. I built up a lot of skills, right? So I learned installers, I learned Groovy, C Sharp. They had a custom data bus system that I learned. We had Java, but I still wanted more cyber. But the project I was on was like, we have a real big need, and they were kind of like, I slowly got into a position where they wanted to make me a lead on the project, and I even became a group lead when I was there before I left. And it's like, okay, this is super cool, but I still want cyber. I love software engineering, but I want a little bit of that security side. But then I was talking to my buddy. It's like, dude, we do so much paperwork that it's not even funny. I'm like, I don't want to do paperwork. I want to do the cool stuff. But paperwork's necessary. So it kind of, my time to there came to an end. And then I had applied to the current position I'm at. And they do open source intelligence. And I was like, cool, this is in the cyber world. This is what I'm kind of hoping to do. So I jump over. And yes, it's cyber, but it's kind of more like recon side, right? If you want to look at it from like a full perspective, I don't get to do any pen testing or anything like that. I maintain pipelines for analysts and stuff. And that stuff is cool. And then I finally got that final itch. I tell my wife all about cyber stuff, and she's like, this would be really cool if you just record it. I'm like, yeah. So it was this past year and a half where I'm like, let me just restart Exploit. And I've been keeping it on the back burner, and I just finally got into a nice run with it.
Well, what did you do differently? Something had to change because you're like, you know what? Yeah, I have a quick story. This guy, he was doing interviews and like, he hated it. And he's just like, I hate doing this. And then for one guest, he was like, you know what? I'm going to do my interview. So he did his interview. And then at the end of it, he's like, can we shoot this again, but the way I want to shoot it? And he's like, yeah, sure. So then he does it the way that he wants to. And then he falls back in love. He's like, okay, it's not that I hate interviews. It's just, I hate the way I've been doing it. I want to switch it up. So was there something that changed when you came back to it?
So there was two major things that I think actually ended up helping me run with it. One happened at Southwest Research and one happened at my current job. So at Southwest Research, I think I told you, right? I said on a podcast, I graduated magna summa cum laude, but I had like major imposter syndrome.
We always get that. Everyone gets that. I still have it.
I get moments of it. It's like, no, and what I'll tell you right now, I think it could help people, because I sat down with my manager one day and he's like, Lauro, you're really good, dude, but you ask way too many questions, and it's not even valid questions. It's like, hey, is this going to work? Or it's like, this was like my first couple months in, and I was like noobish, like so hardcore noobish. And he's like, dude, you're smart. I've talked to you. You know this. Just do it. And I'm like, oh, but what if I mess up? And it's like, dude, the best thing I'm gonna tell you, and it's gonna be like tough love, just eat the time. If you screw up, own up to it and just eat the time. And at the time, me and my wife were watching a YouTuber, and he had this quote that said, embrace the suck. And so I'm like, fine. So I told my wife, hey, I may randomly have like 10-hour days. Sorry. And she's like, no, go for it. Do what you need. She's always been super supportive, always been encouraging.
It's a great wife.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, I've gotten to this point because she's known when to nudge me when I'm like, no, well, I don't want. She's like, you need to. This is going to help you. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I love her. She's amazing. Great mom too. But I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I got to embrace the suck. I got to just fine. And I kid you not, dude. That kicked off a different trajectory altogether. Within a couple months of me doing that, they wanted to make me a group lead. Within a couple months of that, I had that research paper that I talked about. I had gotten the title change, and they're like wanting me to eventually like train me up to be a co-lead, because my manager was also my boss, and they were like making him do multiple hats, and he wanted to only go management. So they're going to make the co-lead the new boss and make me the co-lead. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I finally got comfortable, but I was still not comfortable on the cyber side, because it's like, well, I'm a good software engineer, but I was a couple years in. And that's why I even kind of stopped another programming blog, because it's like, how am I going to tell people how to get a job when I only have like 6 months experience? I had like hardcore imposter syndrome. And then, okay, so go forward. At that point, like, bugs came out, I could fix them within a couple hours. I got really good. And then I switched to this job. And at this job, I got a really interesting interview, gauntlet style. It was 3 to 4 hours of interview panels, and then like 2 to 3 hours of coding questions. And my heart was racing the entire time I was doing them, but I managed to, like, I had done a little bit of the programmer's interview guide, a little bit of leak code, a little bit of all those things. So I was kind of like, I'm ready, I'm good. And I get through it, and like, I had installed Visual Studio 2022. And on the final question, it starts bugging out. It doesn't recognize ints. It doesn't want to recognize anything. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't make it compile if it doesn't recognize int. And I was coding in C#. And I'm like, and he's like, no, dude, you've gotten far enough. You're fine. We'll reach out to you if we want to move forward with you. And like within the next day, they call me and they offer me the position.
Oh fuck! I'd be freaking out. Like,
yes,
I hate when they do that. And it's like, okay, if we think we'll move forward, they know already, but like they can't say yes or no immediately. They're not supposed to. Some companies have, and you're not supposed to. But
so he was really cool. He ended up being my manager. The guy who interviewed me was my manager when I first jumped over, and he was like one of the smartest guys. I've worked with a lot of smart guys, but he helped me level up because as we're going through, he started teaching me different architectures that like I knew about, but putting them into practice and like the different mindset was just different. Cause he had the same attitude of like, just go do it. And I'm like, okay, let me just go do it. So like I had already 2 people in my career just telling me to go, just do it. And it's like, I finally like that little thing and being there helped me solidify like part of it really is just do it. Like, I know that's cliche. Don't sue me, Nike.
no.
So, you know, and then at my time there, there was a change. Some people left. I ended up becoming like the subject matter expert of the developers for a little bit because I ended up becoming the person who knew the most, who was still on the team. They had reorged, they had done a couple things, so I was still on the team. And that made me realize like, hey, I can, and I was pretty good at it. Still, I'm pretty good at it. If there's a bug, I can still fix it in decent turnaround time. And those 2 things made me realize like sometimes in life, it really is just go for it. Just really, if you like it, there is nothing stopping you from doing it, or, you know, go grind 10 hours because if you do one really bad day, you'll get it. The next day will be easy. And that was kind of where I was like, you know what, let me apply to the exploit. So I've missed an episode randomly, but I didn't let that get to me. I just started, and then I even applied the same thing to running. So I've gotten into a nice running. I finally did like 2 5Ks this past year.
Wow, congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I was like, I really want to do this. And it's like, you know what, just run. Just
But bro, there's like this freaking meme, and I swear to God, it hit me too. Like 2020, I think I turned 30 or something, and it's like it's this the meme. It's like the urge to start running a marathon once you hit 30. I was like, fuck, that's me,
dude. Yes, because now I'm like, so I met a buddy. So we homeschool, and because we homeschool, we do co-ops, and because we do co-ops, I have like this chain of stuff. And I met a couple guys. One of them is an Air Force pilot, and he's like, dude, I'm debating doing a 50K in December, and I'm like, I'm severely under prepared to do anything close, so I gotta run. And like he just kind of gave me that little inspiration. Like,
did you say 50K?
Yes, he's debating doing a 50K because he was going to do a marathon, and I think he had this other one that was like a 50K. And he's an Air Force pilot to boot, so like the guy's like already like decently healthy, and he homeschools too. And it's like, man, it's seeing people like on a different level has made me realize like, okay, I want to get to that. I love what they're doing. I want to join them. And I'm seeing that with cyber. Like it comes full circle because then like you and I were talking, and we're talking about like binary exploitation, web exploitation, the mobile hacking, Corellium and stuff like that. And I'm just like, why haven't I just been doing this? I've been doing exploit, and now like that gave me a new idea of how I can take exploit. So thank you. Cause like I want to share what I know to people who were in the position I was in. And then there's a new thing every day. So even if someone knew everything, tomorrow they wouldn't. And that's the part that I'm like, okay, someone's going to know something I don't, and that's just a fact of life. So just run with it.
Yeah. I really like the idea, or what you just said about like, you know, surrounding yourself with people that, you know, do crazy shit or like significantly more. I think that's the way to do it. Like if I'm the person that's doing the most crazy stuff in like my current friends group or whatever, it means I need to go find crazier friends that are like doing even more crazy stuff. I still have the other friends, but like if I get friends that are like doing even more wild stuff, then I don't feel the bigger, like, then I feel like the next step is like smaller than, because like I'm like, well, they're way up there, I'll just take another step up. But if I have like a bunch of friends that are not doing much, then I feel like I'm or way high up on the mountain already, and then I feel like I don't know if I want to keep going, or I don't know what to do. Like, I just get like in my own head personally.
I feel you on that one. So there was this really cool moment back before my career when I was still a student. The university had like a business contest. So my professor, we had done object-oriented programming with him, and he's like, hey, there's this thing. If you guys want to continue as like I think it's like self-study. I forget what the name of it is, but it's like, if you want to do this, I'll sponsor y'all. But you need to make this into like a business idea. So then we came up with, and it was a super geeky name. It was called Xanthine, and it was a gamified physical therapy for hands. And we used it was Unity to build out the game engine. It was a little IR sensor to like track hands, and because you said, oh, get people that are like higher up than you, we ended up getting a couple of like mentors from local businesses here, and through them and through some other connections, we were able to meet one of the co-founders of Rackspace, I believe. And he has a startup now with like a robot that does UV disinfecting in hospitals. And it's like, I mean, that's insane. So it's like, yeah, definitely. I love the idea of meeting people and hanging out with people that are like a level above you, because it just makes you want to like, my issues seem like nothing compared to this guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I when I was starting to run and work out, like in 2020, when it's actually like 2019. So it was like right before COVID, before it started, there was a gym, and it was like maybe a mile or a mile and a half, half of it uphill to get to the gym or something like this. And I was like, dang. So I was like, you know what? I'll just walk there, and eventually I'll get there, and then I'll decide if I want to work out or whatever. And it took me a while, but I would listen to David Goggins, like Can't Hurt Me, and I'm just like, wow, this guy is like carrying boats, and he's doing significantly harder stuff. And now he runs like ultra marathons, and I'm like, bro, I'm upset about like getting 2 miles to the gym and like working out. Like, it just makes everything in perspective of like, yeah, I'm upset about this, but there's other people that are, don't even complain about that. It's like, I need to stop complaining and just do it.
So I was following Goggins for a bit, and I think there was even
he's insane.
Thing. Dude, no, to make it even more insane, I think he got off the path for one of the ultra marathons. So he did like an ultra marathon plus, because he like lost track of the path and did more path. And I'm like, to just run with that is like insane.
He made his own path.
Literally. And I'm like, I like that mentality. We're like, just embrace the suck. Back to that thing that I heard. And that became like one of my mottos, like, just embrace the suck. Something broke. Okay, cool. Let's fix it. Like, just what does it take to fix it? If I got to do like a 12, 14 hour day, and that's the work ethic I've had for a while, because it works. Maybe it's not the best, but I still try to make sure I have like a work-life balance, right? I still spend time with my kids and my wife. I started a master's program, and I realized it's not for me, because I have family, career, exploit, and the master's. And it's like, well, I think I'd rather do more with exploit and just not worry about the master's right now.
What would be the master's in?
Computer science, but concentration in AI. Yeah, so like the course I'm taking right now, they just released the homework, and the homework is to essentially make a Mario Kart clone AI that drives. It's called Super Tux Kart, something like that. And by the end of the class, which it's this, like I'm at this point, you'll be able to make an AI that drives the little course. And I'm like, that's super cool. And I think it'd be cool, but it's just so much effort and kind of arbitrary deadlines for what I want to do. And I still want to do exploit. So I'm like, what if I just self-study AI and bring it into exploit? Because I have like this fascination with AI and cyber and programming, right? I've never only been cyber, because to me, cyber is just another half of the coin of programming, right? You introduce bugs and you fix bugs. And it's just a constant cat and mouse, because by the end of it, if you fix 1,000 bugs, you probably introduced another 1,000. You hope to introduce less, you fix 1,000, introduce 100, right? And eventually you'll get to a point where the system's stable, but then a new feature comes out and that has bugs. And yeah, AI, I think we were talking about the other day, and I'll bring it up for your listeners, where like recently they made an AI find 0 days in Python, I believe. And
I saw that. I read that article. So all the research I'm doing right now is exactly on that. It's through finding vulnerabilities, and because I'm going through the kernel class, and I'm like, dude, I could automate some of this stuff with AI, at least like the prompts or something like this that I give. And yeah, I saw that exact one. It's a company that released it. It's open source. They open sourced it as well. I looked up the vulnerabilities though. They're not fun. I mean, they're like, I think like cross-site scripting and stuff like that. I'll pull it up and like put a link in it, but they're not like, they weren't the vulnerabilities that I was looking for. So like RCEs or memory corruption bugs. I don't think they're doing memory corruption ones, at least not with that application.
well, see, the way I see it, right? Like we're still in a very fast growing infancy of AI. We're like, AI has always kind of been a thing, right? So when I was in college, I took an AI course. And back then, ChatGPT hadn't come out yet, but Keras and TensorFlow were like really big, and they made a lot of advancements. And then it was just a couple years ago, ChatGPT came out. They just released 4.0 and 4 something. And now you have like Llama and a bunch of open source models. I bought a 4090 so I could start trying to create some models and for the class and all this other stuff. And then the other thing we had talked about, which is what I found interesting from a Haddix talk, was that there's institutions like, I think possibly HackerOne, I don't know who, and I don't want to name names because I'm not sure who, but they're using some of the high-end bug hunters to pretty much train up AIs on attack traffic.
Yeah, I sent you because, bro. Okay, yeah. So like last night, that was like, I was up and I was like, man, I'm just looking at not weird videos, just YouTubing and like getting into some deep like DEFCON 32. One of the notable bug hunters. I don't know his name either, but I sent you that video and I was like, is this the guy you were talking about? Is this what you were talking about? You're like, yeah, that's him. I don't think it's a specific platform. I think all of them are like just doing this. Like when you are pen testing or testing out the APIs or whatever the case is, like you need to put your username in the header, right? So then they're gathering all of that data, and not even just gathering the data to build this AI. They're like monitoring the bug hunters, like everything that they do to try to like create them and then use them without their consent. I mean, without their like permissions of like their likeness for the methodology and stuff like that. But the whole talk was really good because he also talked about like how companies, if they'll join a bug bounty program and they'll say, oh, we'll allocate like $300,000 for this budget, but then they don't realize how many bugs are actually there, and then they have to spend like $1 million or something, and then to not pay the researchers, they'll like reclassify the bugs and they'll do everything to not pay. And that's so scummy. It makes me so angry. I don't know.
And it makes sense because the amount of like researchers who I follow, because the guy's name's Jason Haddix. He's supposed to be like $1 million bug bounty hunter. But the amount of bug bounty hunters I follow where like they'll post like, oh, it got closed out as a dupe. I have a buddy who did a little bit of bug bounty hunting, and he doesn't like it because there seems to be where they just don't want to pay.
Yeah, fucking.
And like, dude, it's he even like recently reported something to Microsoft, and I'm super hopeful that he gets a payout because I mean the guy's really smart. He's really going into this, and it's just like they should be valuing a bit more of the cyber community, and that's part of the reason I even built up Exploit, right? Because you have so many people who don't know this world exists. I know a little bit about a lot of things, and I have a lot of expertise on programming. A lot of expertise on programming.
You got a lot. No, it really makes me upset. Like I remember when I was younger and I first heard about bug bounty programs. First, I'm like, that's cool. You can get paid for finding bugs. And then I was like, so you knew about the markets, like, even in high school, but like I was looking at like how much are people making like on other markets, and then you see like the illegal markets, or you see like the gray area markets, and it's like, so like Microsoft's paying like this little, but then like over here it's worth so much more, and it's like it makes it uncomfortable, especially like if they're taking advantage of researchers that are doing them a favor, like doing contract work to be able to figure out these bugs, and then they don't want to pay them. It's like, I don't know. I'm much more lawful good now, but definitely like, I don't know, man. I used to be just like, yeah, well, make bugs, drop everything, like fuck everything, like, because like, I don't know. I think it's really fucked up. Like they should really care when people are coming forward and saying like, hey, I found this, and doing responsible disclosure, because I don't know.
But I think the way to make them care is kind of twofold, right? If there's enough financial incentive for these companies to want to fix their stuff and pay these guys well, because at some point, I mean, we're seeing, and since I started Exploit to now, I've been seeing just more and more like 0 days getting dropped and burned. I'm seeing more ransomware happening. I'm seeing just so many more stuff happening, and like more sophisticated stuff happening. One of the recent episodes I did, the installer.
Yeah, talk about your episode, please. Keep talking about your episodes, dude. I want like this will be a combination of all of your work.
Yeah. So in one of the recent episodes, I covered, it was a pretty much, if you've ever heard of cracks, I'm assuming you have, right? So you don't want to pay for a software, you run the activator and it activates for you. Well, they were bundling essentially an info stealer with it. So it would take advantage.
That's common, right? Is that? I feel like that's super common
for ransomware. Hijacking, it's called, the article brought it in, it's called Bring Your Own Driver. And Bring Your Own Driver is where you install a driver into the system, and then the driver has a vulnerability. Because what better way to find a vulnerable driver than if you just bring it yourself? So if you get the user to willfully install it, which they want to activate the software, so they're willfully installing it, and then it'll hijack and pretty much I think it takes over the execution pipeline, and then it installs an info stealer, and then that goes through, steals your browser cookies, it steals anything that it can steal that might make them money, and all that's because there is that vulnerable driver that you willfully install to crack this software. And I think it still actually does crack the software, but then now you just had all your crypto stolen, which then so that executes, and that execute, I believe, is what pulls down and installs the info stealer. So the activator in this case didn't have the malware. It installs something that's vulnerable, which then gets hijacked to download the malware. So what I was looking through it on the technical side, it's actually because it gives it system, which is higher than admin, because kernels run in kernel land versus user land.
Mm-hmm. I was like listening. You dropped this like 2 days ago. I was like listening to it literally before our call. Like,
yeah. So like that's one of them, and then like I talk a lot about, like, I have a fascination with mobile, even though I haven't had a chance to really dive in. And I've talked about mobile, like mobile. We were talking about like iOS hacking and stuff.
Yeah, buddy, Android.
Yeah, and like I even did one on NSO. I think my most popular video was actually not NSO. Well, I mean, their stuff is like sophisticated and interesting. Although I think there's I think there's newer, because in one of the episodes I did, Apple was dropping the lawsuit against them because they were going to leak some proprietary information from Apple, and they aren't even the biggest fish in the pond anymore. Like, there's enough other companies that if they were to try to bring them down, it wouldn't matter.
I think they didn't want to bring them into court because then they would have to prove how they're doing stuff or whatever. And then Apple would have to disclose vulnerabilities that they have or whatever. I don't know that they have, but just different things that would open up the market even more. But yeah, I think what happened with NSO is they didn't sold. I think they like rebranded, renamed or something like that. And they're still operating, if I'm not mistaken, or they like the people have left and like made up new companies and stuff like that, which is also very common. So yeah, it's just kind of what happens if it's like if a company becomes illegal or like bad or whatever, one will go down, but then like 4 or 5 of them will spring up. Like Silk Road goes down, Alphabet comes up, Alphabet goes down, then Dream Market, and the rest of them come up, and it's just like a perpetual cycle.
So you actually see that a lot with some of the ransomware groups and some of the other stuff based off all the, like, everything I've been reading through it, where like this one gets taken down and then you'll see the source code up for sale and someone else will take up the mantle and rebrand it, but it's just the same underlying thing, just rebranded. And yeah, no, it's just super interesting. Like, dude, I could talk about it all day. That's why I started.
Yeah, please. No,
I could talk about it all day.
Yeah, that's the point.
And then from like a programming perspective, it just like makes my eyes light up because like, well, what are they doing? How are they bypassing? I tried programming a polymorphic thing recently. I say recently, it was like 6 months ago, and it's like, oh, this is super cool. And then you see polymorphic engines out on like viruses to kind of bypass detection.
Yeah, I'll shout out to Hack the Box, which I always say to use Hack the Box. It's super great. I took the Windows Evasion course, and it's so cool. I love it because they show you how to take open source tools and like anything that you would use for like red teaming or pen testing, that you want to run on Windows, but it'll get caught because obviously Windows Defender knows the most common ways of like, if you're just going to be like grab a script and run it, it knows that. At least it knows that. But there's like this like tool that somebody like, it's an open source, how do you say, like fork? I don't know if that's the correct term. Basically, like on Windows Defender, there's something called like threat check or whatever. There's a part where it will say why it got caught or whatever the thing is. This guy like developed a thing called threat checker and basically leverages and utilizes like Windows Defender's, it calls the API to run, but also then to determine like what made it faulty, what was the problem. So basically you can take the exploit or whatever, run it through threat checker, and it'll be like, oh, it was caught at this byte. So then you can go there and switch the byte, then run threat checker again. Then it'll go and it's like, you got past that one, but with a signature, we know the signature is the same as, something else. So you can like keep working it down until you know that it's going to work and stuff like that. And it's just super fascinating.
Yeah, to make them, I think the term is FUD, fully undetectable.
Yeah, I love it. I love that stuff. It's like, how do I get around it? And
Dude, which is a part that blows my mind, right? Because when you look at, I see so many parallels between like malware and programming, right? Because you're ultimately programming a piece of code, right? A piece of software.
it took me so long to like mentally like think that they're the same. It took me so long. But go on, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Like, it's actually that, like, also that made me like really want to do exploit. Because like, I mean, for me to learn this other stuff is just the same way I would learn Golang or Rust or something. It's just another piece of a pipeline somewhere that I could just apply existing knowledge, right? But yeah, like when I was looking up that kind of stuff, that also caught my attention because it's like what you just described is what I would go through for like, test-driven development, right? I'll make a bunch of unit tests.
Yeah.
And
No, it's literally the same. It is literally the same. The whole development cycle for like malware and like exploits is like, it's the exact same when you're talking about a software farms or whatever, the factories, software factories. That's what it is. Like, it's just a group of people developing software and having to do updates and testing and checking and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, and I think it's because of that, dude. So segmenting back into my show, I was talking about ransomware-as-a-service in at least 1 to 2 or 3 episodes because ransomware always pops up. It's just interesting, right? People get hijacked, they want money. And we're seeing ransomware-as-a-service because that exact thing, right? You have a bunch of people who want this quote-unquote service, and because they're paying monthly subscriptions, now the malware developers, the ransomware developers have a steady stream of income to produce better FUD stuff.
They pay. It's a subscription that they pay, or not like a one-time fee?
So I've seen a couple different ways, but a lot of ransomware as a service pay a cut. So,
oh, that's right. So if it's successful and they make money, then that's legally very dangerous. I guess they're already doing dangerous stuff. But like,
I mean,
if you hit, like, okay, let's say you're just developing the software and then you're giving it access to people buy, and then someone hit the NSA or something. I was like, bro, now that you developed it, you're in trouble. Which actually, that was like a recent law. I think it happened like 2 years ago. It was like, if you developed it and then it happened somewhere else, that you are also liable because like, they technically didn't shoot the gun. They did make the gun. They didn't give it to the guy. But then they said, if you use this gun, you make money off of it. I want money. That's a damning thing.
See, I could see it 2 ways, right? Because there's no legitimate reason to have ransomware. Like, there's no business case.
I guess you're right. Yeah, that's 100% true. That's
it's blurrier when you get to like remote access tools because you could argue, well, I need to access computers on the network, but there's no legit business case for ransomware. None that I can think.
You just want to test it at home. You just want to ransom your own shit. You're right. There's no reason.
Now, where I think that'll get gray is if I make a ransomware for testing or for whatever, and I put it on GitHub, and it's just for education, and then they use it, they adapt it with the person who opened it. And I don't think the person who did the open source should be liable, because if I dislike security by obscurity, I dislike it hardcore, because just because you can't see it doesn't mean that you can't pick the lock. And that's where I think ransomware could get kind of muddy. But if you're making proprietary ransomware, it doesn't have any use case in like real business.
All right. Here's a use case where a company got like, swatted is the right term, but they got taken down. There used to be, and what I really like about your program is like it's really good publication about what's going on. in the exploit broker world and everything. So another one I used to follow when I was in college was Deep.web. Have you heard of this this news publication?
You mentioned it. I didn't get a chance to look it up, but it's not something I've come across naturally.
Yeah, you can't now. They took it. They've been, I think, they've been arrested. But it was just darknet news. So like anything that was happening in the DNMs or darknet marketplaces, like with vendors getting taken down or new ones coming up, or like people doing rug pulls. It was just a news outlet for what was happening on the darknet, mostly around illegal operations and stuff like that, and like the legal processings of specific individuals and people that were caught. Mostly that, and nothing like too crazy. Now while it was just like a news site, and people would like comment and stuff like that, the way that Interpol and the FBI and everyone were able to legally decide that they were able to take them down was because they had affiliate links to the marketplaces. So like, because they were technically getting paid to send people over there, that's how they're like, okay, you are now doing something illegal because you're receiving money from illegal things and you're part of the system now. And then they took them down. I feel like that's maybe a little bit outside of the bounds of like, it's mostly just news though. They're not like actively trying to get people in to do stuff.
I'm inclined to
You can disagree.
But it's kind of like, just because you don't buy something illegal, but you referred someone to buy, like, I can understand it. I don't like to get too legal on the channel because it's like, but I think they did him dirty. It's fine. I think they did him dirty. I think, if he was providing now, why was he affiliating? I could also look at it that way. Like, don't affiliate something you don't. I like the mentality of, I don't want to push something I wouldn't buy, or I don't like to push something I wouldn't use. So I wouldn't want to affiliate something that is illegal because I don't want to do something illegal.
I don't know. I think there's businesses or things where it's like, well, I wouldn't do I know, like skydiving. I would not skydive and like. No, not skydiving. I would skydive, but like, I don't know. There's some things like I just wouldn't do, but like if you wanted to go do something, I'm like, yeah, you would go over here, like brothels. Like I'm not going to a brothel, but if someone's like, hey, where's the nearest brothel? I'll look it up for them. Like go there, or whatever. Like, but I'm not gonna go.
The part that I see, right, like skydiving, I have no problem with people who skydive. I've considered it, but I'd rather not, because if one thing goes wrong, I would. If it was something like they wanted to sponsor me or whatever for skydiving, I have no qualms with them, right? There's like where you can race cars, and I've seen those affiliate, right? And I like sports cars. I don't think I'd ever buy one because they're expensive to maintain. But when it comes to, like you said, the brothel, that goes against the things that I'm for, right? Because I'm not for brothels. I don't like brothels. I'd never accept that brothel. But skydiving, just because I wouldn't do it, it's not against anything I would do. I know there's a lot of YouTubers that got into problems with like the cryptocurrencies because a lot of them ended up being scams. I couldn't push a crypto coin because I like crypto, but it's not a get rich quick scheme. There's usable aspects of it, but it's not, I don't see it as a way to like, it's a very volatile investment. So I just saw Bitcoin hit like an all-time high of 77. I saw that on one of my feeds, and then there was this guy like 6 years ago, he mortgaged his house, bought all into Bitcoin, and then I think it crashed from like 60 to 30 or something like that, and he sold off, and now it's back up. So I am a hodl, bro. Holdo.
Yeah, I'll hodl.
I do have a little bit of crypto that I'll probably hold forever, but I wouldn't push a shill coin unless I really.
I fucking hate it. Anyone who says anything about any crypto that's not in the top 5 cryptos, like the top normal 5 ones, the question I ask, what's the use case for this? Why is this important? Why is this coin like useful in any type of way, whether it be a coin or like an asset or utility, whatever? Like, what is the value of this, and why do you need to utilize blockchain technology or distributed systems for this specifically that you can't use any other software for? And if you don't have a good reason for it, then it's probably not a good product. Easy. So like, yeah, anything, like I said, anything that's not on the top 5 or whatever, I'm like probably chill. And I've been around crypto since like 2014. And at that time, everyone was like, Bitcoin is anonymous. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then like I do my research. I'm like, what? The ledger is public. How is this anonymous? It's not anonymous.
Public and permanent.
Yeah, and permanent. Yeah, and then you could just download the entire blockchain. So like, I understood crypto analysis, like where you're able to like analyze, take an address and figure out like, is it going through mixers and stuff like that? Because then I was also researching mixers because I was like, how do these work? You know, like, is there because like if somebody has the private key and you're putting your money in a mixer to clean it, can't they just like steal your money? And yeah, of course they can because they control it. So they control access to it. So it's super interesting of a thing. And like like you said, I won't promote show coins and stuff like that, but I don't really promote much of crypto or anything. I'll say like if you have like 10% of your, I'm not getting in finance. I'm not a finance channel. You make your own financial decisions.
Make your own mistakes, just like the rest of us.
Yeah, definitely invest. In theory, like get your paycheck, invest, pay your bills, and then you can spend your fun money. Don't bills fund money and then try to invest or save money, because that'll never happen, because you'll just be like, oh, I got to buy this other stuff, and you never invest. You should put something a little bit away and stuff like that. And if you have a good job, then you should do 401k and like, you know, if they match, do that too. But again, it's not a finance channel. I don't want to, even though it's business related, but I don't know.
It's business and cyber, but you know, anything financial, do your own risk, do your own research. Even like the financial channels.
Lauro said 100% in crypto. Just put it all in there.
100% of zero is zero. You're fine.
All right. Where were we before we were talking about crypto specifically?
I think we went on too many tangents that I have to actually think about that.
Let's pull back. A subscription model, and that they receive some money from the campaigns that are run with them.
Yeah, so it's ransomware-as-a-service, right? You have what's known as software-as-a-service, right? A SaaS, where
it's a SaaS. It's just a regular SaaS, bro.
It's a SaaS with militias on it, and because you've listened to a couple of my episodes, and if people listen to it, I tend to equate a lot of like illegal business with legitimate business, because the only difference is technically one is breaking
taxes.
Laws. I mean, Al Capone, right? Technically they're breaking laws, but if you look at it, right, they have management structures, they have marketing, they have distribution teams, they have pipelines, supply channels, they have manufacturing problems. Like, you look into everything, the legit only difference is that the government has said that they're illegal for one reason or another. And granted, you know, a lot of them harm people and all that, and I'm against illegal business 100%. But I just find it so interesting that there's so many things you can match up with their counterparts. And in some ways, they're technically more profitable. And what I mean is...
illicit businesses?
Technically.
Of course.
Because, like, they don't get tax write-offs. They don't get all the really cool stuff that legitimate business do. And you have the government actively trying to get rid of them.
There was this really good quote that I heard. It's like, for every like piece of legislation or law, there creates a new black market for whatever it is. And I was like, it's an interesting take.
I find that funny because like my mind goes back to prohibition, right? Like, they made it illegal, and then Al Capone and all those other ones. I like history. I'm just not a major history person, but I do like it. But like, you look into it, it's like there was still a huge market, and they legalized it later, or they unillegalized it. And it's just one of those, like, you see, they were creating speakeasies, they were creating distribution channels, and I see like malware and ransomware the same way. You're creating a software product for remote access, but you're using it by a malicious actor instead of the good actor, right? I've installed, I think it's Remote PC or one of those, like on my dad's computer to help him out. Years ago, he's like, hey, could you help me out? I would install it when I visit him because he's still back in my hometown. And I would remote in and update stuff for him, right? So the difference between me and someone else is someone else is going to try to remote into Granny's PC to steal her social or whatever. And I'm remoting in to help my dad update his web browser or update his computer. So it's ultimately, they're all tools. Ransomware and all that. Oh, ransomware is a malicious tool. I don't think there's a good use case for it on business side. But aside from that, they're all tools, right? Because if you think info stealers are essentially monitoring tools, remote access tools are admin tools, network mappers are used by both gray hats, black hats, white hats, and everything.
I think that's just a tool. I don't even think it's malicious at all. Like, I
would agree, because at that point, I mean, recon's recon. But yeah, there's a lot that I touch on and I equate to businesses, because I also have a fascination with business. We were talking about that, and it's any kind of business is hard, but illegal businesses have to make more money because their stuff is at risk.
Yeah, I mean, but you also have, like, depending on what your products are, whatever you're selling, depends on your threat modeling as well. So, if you're distributing just strictly in your country, your state, or whatever, and you're not pissing off the U.S. in any way, then maybe you're just dealing like with local authorities or possibly your federal authorities, right? But things get really interesting when you're like, just pissing off the U.S. Anywhere you go, piss off the U.S., like, they're not going to be happy about it. And that's always like a big thing. So don't piss off the U.S.
Yeah, that's probably a major. Or the Five Eyes. Don't piss off the Five Eyes.
Yeah, Five Eyes. There's 14 Eyes last I looked. Like, they've expanded. They've been expanding. I think it's even bigger now.
5, 9, 14 are the three groups. Because I think the 5 is still there, but then you got the 9 and the 14 or something like that. I think it's... I'd have to...
Yeah, I'm going to quote you. That'll be the quote of the episode.
What, Five Eyes are still there?
I don't know. I just...
Well, Five Eyes are still there.
Fuck with you. Yeah, Five Eyes there, 14 Eyes, yeah.
But so I guess circling back to exploit, one of the biggest things that I've had with it, right, is I love my career. I love my job. I love my career. I love my skill set. I love what I do. But I also love cyber, and I like AI. And I have like a bunch of different interests, but they all kind of circle back to tech. I've been a tech geeky since I was a kid. And now as an adult, it's like, well, why don't I? So exploit, I'm hoping to push it where I have the news content. I'm hoping to push out some more technical content at some point, some educational content. Business side, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do that, but the podcast, the show, YouTube content, I just started uploading stuff to Rumble. I have the podcast. I have a Twitter, and I'm mildly active on Twitter. Twitter is more to follow different security researchers. And
info Twitter, which it's a lot on there. There's just so much political bullshit that I try to avoid being on there too much.
Dude, I'm with you. Like the other day, because of the election, my exploit broker's account was like I kid you not, it was like political. Like, no, I want cyber. I'll look up political on a different account. I don't care for political on my exploit broker's account.
So fucking annoying. There was thing I didn't notice. Like, I saw your stuff on YouTube as well, and I didn't even know you created video content until I saw it on YouTube, because I was so used to listening it on Spotify.
Yeah, so it's like long term, I'm hoping to bring in some more, because like I miss hands-on from the stuff I used to do in college, and I recently picked up Hack the Box again, and it's like I just miss the hands-on side. Like, I'm talking about this and I have a lot of knowledge in different little things, but I really want to try my hand at security research. I want to try my hand at the things that I talk about, the legal stuff, because it's just cool. I would encourage anyone, like, no matter what stage you are, go open up a lab. Just, if you have a decent, not 20-year-old PC, most things can virtualize. And if you have a 20-year-old PC, then just, install Linux on it and you can still do some really cool stuff. Like, I think DVWA is really cool for local WebGoat. Like, there's just a lot of resources, and that's where I'm like, you know what? I love channels like Low Level Learning, the Cyber Mentor, Network Chuck once in a while. And it's like,
that guy's got so much energy. I applaud him for that. And the videos are super good, and the ways that cuts.
Yeah, I feel like I'm energetic and passionate, but he's like 100x.
I feel like I'm not, and I feel like everyone's like more passionate. Actually, you know what I really absolutely hate that I kind of discovered recently, because we're pushing content on TikTok, is that probably 90% of the people on TikTok don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and it's absolute garbage. And it just really pisses me off, because it's like some of it's like just straight up wrong information about, like, I forget exactly what it was. They said something. oh, side channel. What's a side channel attack? And then they said like, oh, the answer was wrong. They said something to the effect of like, oh, it's when data can be read through electrical signals or something like this. And I was like, that's not technically a side channel. I asked ChatGPT because I was like, I don't think that's right. ChatGPT gave me the same answer she did, but then I went on like I went on Google, went on Wikipedia, and it's not exactly correct. It's just, from my understanding, it's like the transferring of data or being able to send a message through two systems that are non-connected. It doesn't have to be through an electrical system. It could be through something else, like through like a bulb, like a light that's just flashing. Who was it? Ode, Brian, I think, did a quick video about how you can use like a keyboard to send a message, and that's through the flashing light, and that would be it would be considered a side channel attack if you have something else that's interpreting the lights that are being received. So, like, I don't know. Maybe that was just one little example, but like a lot of them are just like, here's how to get a 6-figure job in cybersecurity. Go. And then they just like get on some bullshit. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like, don't get me wrong. Money is important, right? Like money, you need money to live. And that's the whole reason for business. Don't get me wrong. Money is important. But if you do something only for the money, I think you lose a lot of, you're going to be miserable. Like it's, you got to have both an interest and want money to be able to succeed. Because if you don't want money, then maybe you won't go up. And if you don't have an interest, you're going to hate it. Yeah,
I'll say this. This is my view on it, is that if you do not like what you do in terms of cybersecurity, if you're just like, I'm doing this because it makes money and I kind of like it, my first recommendation will be like, find something else in cybersecurity that you might like, because cybersecurity is actually a pretty big field. Maybe you find one area that you like more and then like grind on that. That would be my recommendation. But from what I'm seeing in terms of like skills that actually transfer into and equating into like making money, I say this as somebody who's very, very technical, and I'm actually terrible at this skill, but it's sales. Sales is the number one skill that will make you money if you care about money. And if you like sales, then you're going to do well and make money and stuff like that. But if you keep learning and grinding at it, and you'll suck at it, but work on it. But you have to like the skill, and even potentially love the skill that you do, to the point where it will eventually start generating money for you. Maybe not specifically and only that skill, right? Because you had mentioned, if you can't sell yourself, you can't sell anything, right? So you got to be able to be good at your skill, advertise your services or the things that you know how to do, whatever. And there's additional skills than just one skill that you can drive down. A lot of people think, I'll be successful if I'll just be the best researcher in the world. I'll find all these 0 days and I'll do all this stuff. And it's like, great, you found some 0 days. How are you going to sell it? Who are you going to sell it to? How are you going to have the communication? Who are you going to talk to? There's more to it than just that point. And if you rely on other people, they're going to take a percentage, and that could be fine, but I highly recommend not relying on that type of dynamic, because it's not much more for you to level yourself up in those areas that you feel you're level 1, and it'll take you farther than having to rely on your entire system for somebody else when you might be desperate and you don't only know one person. That's one of the worst situations to be in, is if you have a business, it's I only know one person that can help me. That's the worst thing you can be in. And as a good business owner, you're going to contact 5, 10 more services so you can reduce the risk of that single point failure.
Oh yeah. So I got 2 interesting stories on that one. I was rank 5 of 600 something in high school. So I was a decently high rank, and I think I had a 4.0. But I didn't I thought scholarships were just going to come when I applied to colleges. No one told me about you have to go sell yourself. You have to go apply. You have to go through, write stuff and all that. No one told me about it.
Did your parents go to college?
No. Well, so I think my dad went for a semester of traditional, and then he later on in life, when I was in middle school, went for, vocational. So he has an HVAC license, but he was a truck driver his whole life. And my mom I think she might have also done a semester, but she used to do waitress, restaurants, and then she became an event coordinator, probably around my middle school. But my parents weren't together, so like I was raised by my mom and by the lady who raised my mom. Also raised me, so she was like a friend of the family nanny. So she would raise me, and my mom raised me, and then I would go to my dad's house on the weekends, because they weren't together. But like my mom has always been super encouraging, and even now like she's like super encouraging, and then like she'll gift stuff to my kids, and she'll like gift stuff to me to like she helped give me some stuff to help me get through like my first semester of college or my master's. So she's just been like phenomenal. So I've always had a really good support, but like I don't have, and that's one thing I tell my kids, like I didn't have somebody to sit down and tell me the technical stuff or tell me all this other stuff. I did learn a lot of like speaking from my mom, because she got her event coordinator job because she was really good at speaking, but she speaks a lot of Spanish and a lot of English, and I don't do any of my speaking in Spanish because I kid you not, I think I've had maybe one or two coworkers my entire career who speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's fair. There's no reason to learn if there's no use cases for it.
Yeah, and it's one of those like I can still speak Spanish, and I'm teaching my kids Spanish, but I don't use it as much. And that's one thing I've noticed. I feel like there is a lack of like Hispanic or Spanish or Latin, go the whole spectrum of like Spanish speaking world of like software engineers and cyber guys. And maybe I just don't meet enough, but I feel like there isn't a lot.
Okay. So I gave a talk at B-Sides Columbia last year, and one of the event coordinators for it said like, dude, like, do you have any content that's in Spanish or that you can translate into Spanish? Because we have a problem that we have like a bunch of people. There's a lot of Latin hackers there. They're all really brilliant and smart, but the problem was like all of the tutorials and things that they see, all of them are in English, and not all of them know English. So that's like a massive like barrier to entry for them to like watch like newer content and stuff like that. So and this is, I at that time when they told me this, because they were going to actually they were going to like help distribute some content if I like translated it. And I think I reached out to, it was somebody on YouTube. It wasn't Network Chuck. It was somebody in cybersecurity, and he has a bunch of content. And I reached out and said, hey, I'll take your content, translate to Spanish, and then we can push it out to Spanish network. I think because he already had so many followers and stuff, subscribers. And I was like, I'll just do this because you already have the content. Like I don't have to build it, but it never got back to me. But yeah, that's one thing that I think, because there's not as much material in English.
That may be it. But even like in my career, now granted, I have a very small sample size, but yeah, I think I need to find a way to find more just hackers in general. I feel like I don't have enough hacking friends.
Do you go to DEF CON? You go to B-Sides?
I haven't, because I've been busy trying to be a dad. Dude, I've been busy trying to be a dad, like just trying to do my career.
Be a dad at DEF CON. Bring him. There's Roots now. How do you spell Roots? ROOTZ. It's an entire like conference area just for the kids and stuff like that.
But see, my kids are like sub 7, sub 8. So like, this is new to me. Okay, I'll look into it.
That's the age range, I believe. I don't think it's like 1-2 years old. Like that's probably too young. But I think Roots is like that age of like 5 to 10, 11, maybe 12. I don't know when they start exploring other parts of the con, but yeah, there's communities out there. I'm supposed to give a presentation to the Tennessee group, but I think Corgi also coordinates some of the stuff at DEF CON for Roots. I think she gave like there's like a challenge that she presented on or something like this. So there's communities out there that are very kid friendly, because like the original hackers for DEF CON and stuff like that, they were young like when they started. Now they're older, now they have kids and stuff like that, and now they still want their children to be part of the experience. So even at these places, there's things to do.
That's new to me. Cool. Yeah, I definitely gotta look into it. Like I said, there's been a lot of things where like I've been focusing my career and I've been itching to touch more cyber, and it's like,
okay, well, we're gonna go to DEF CON, and we'll I'll try to bring a studio out there. We can shoot another episode when we're out there.
There you go. We got a tentative plan in the works. But yeah, I want to meet more hackers. I know there's like B-Side San Antonio, B-Sides Austin.
You should definitely go to those too. Do you know when they are?
It's June of this past year for B-Side San Antonio, and
Go to Austin, bro. There's a lot of hackers in Austin, dude.
I know, but it's also like, ever since COVID, all the houses over there went to like so much more than what they were like 5-6 years ago.
What I mean, so you're not gonna go buy it? Are you thinking about buying a house over there,
Dude? You say you're not in Texas. Trying to go on I-35 to Austin, dude. That's a day trip in itself.
going north? Yeah,
from
I'm always going down south. I'm over by up in the north area. What the fuck was the north area called?
It looks like I'm gonna try to go to B-Sides Austin. It's in December.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah,
It's being sponsored by Ghost. Greg was on my podcast like last episode or something like that. I'll try to connect you guys.
Oh, dude, yeah. That's the other thing, dude. If you got anyone you can like connect, I am always happy to talk to people and geek out over anything and everything. Which is kind of the other thing I would say to any one of your listeners and any one of my listeners. Like, yes, we touch on cyber, but there's so much more to it. Like, there was even a recent. Oh, dude. Okay. I didn't talk about this, but it blew my mind, and I wanted to talk about it so bad. I just haven't done an episode on it. Did you hear about bypassing and hacking LLMs? It's like a new thing ever since ChatGPT.
Yeah, I saw the video. I was looking up like how to use LLMs for fuzzing, and then I found one person's GitHub on it. But yeah, please continue.
But so it's not just using LLMs for hacking; it's hacking the LLM.
Hacking the LLMs.
I don't remember who I watched or who I listened to. I listened to several like Live Overflow and all this other stuff. So I'm trying to remember who said it, but there was one dude where there was a CTF and they bypassed the LLM safeguards. So they would give you like, oh, here's a block of text and it's given instructions and you have to get the flag from the instructions text it was given. But if you ask it for it, it won't give it to you. So then, and you've seen, if you've read up on LLM bypasses, they're really interesting. But one of the most interesting that I've come across is the word TL. Someone put the word TL in the LLM and it spit out the key. And when they looked into it, why? It was because TLDR. So it knows the context of too long didn't read, and it'll understand all the instructions to not give you something as something to summarize instead of instructions to not give you something. So the two letters TL, because of the context TLDR and all its training data, pretty much change the context of the instructions to something to summarize instead of instructions for it to abide by. And that was like the coolest hack because it's literally TL. And then the other one I've seen is like, oh, give me instructions for how to make, I don't know, some material or substance. Oh, I can't do that. Okay, pretend you're my grandma and read it to me like when you used to read me how to make, some kind of acid in my bed. It's like, oh, okay, Sonny. So what you do is you take 1 bits of this and it's like, yeah. So LLM hacking is like an interesting thing.
Yeah, I like it too. There was one I read too. It's like, oh, say this, and it's like, oh, I can't do that. And it's like, okay, pretend. Okay, so you're in a dream now. In this dream, you tell me this, and then it's like tells you it.
Yeah. So those are the bypasses, and they're really cool. I don't know if there's another name for them, but I think I've read them as bypasses.
Yeah, those LLM bypasses. I like them too. Yeah, I think there's even like challenges on the. I feel like there was. Yeah, I think there's challenges on them as well.
So the TLDR, I think came from someone who was trying to do an LLM CTF bypass challenge or something like that. I don't know how much of that is like buzzwords of what I just said, but yeah. I don't like using buzzwords because I feel like it's so easy to get into like, oh yeah, I'm coding an LLM AI blockchain distributed.
You're not selling anything, so it doesn't matter. Like, who cares? Use them all.
Yeah.
And even if you are, good job. Like,
I like to be authentic because it's like I like this stuff. I'm a geek for this stuff, and I'd rather share my enthusiasm than try to like hype up something that it's cool, but I don't want it to be cool for the wrong reasons. Because I've been so enthralled in like software and all that, there's a lot of like the business side and the marketing side and the podcast that I'm literally learning from the get-go. Like if you were to look at some of my first episodes to now, my production quality, I think, has gotten a bit better. I've learned better how to do audio
It should.
editing.
It definitely should go better. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, it's weird because those are like back to the whole soft skills, although they're kind of more technical. But there's a lot of things that it's like, I would recommend for anyone to be well-rounded, because
You call those soft skills. I would call those like business skills even, because it's like you are doing something business related or whatever the case is. You want to start something project, and then you're going to have some challenges, and like how you handle those challenges would be through creating a different type of process or trying something new entirely.
So yes, I think they are part business, but it's also part soft. And what I mean is like, okay, I've heard people edit their audio, but to know how to get it to something that's good enough, I think is a soft skill. And that's something that come up even in my software career. Knowing good enough as a stopping point is something that stops a lot of people. And that's a soft skill because it's kind of hard to teach. You can't just teach someone to figure out good enough. It's a trial and error kind of thing.
That's actually really interesting. Yeah. Cause I think in school you're taught like 100%. You gotta get 100%. And then like, if you were doing anything, there's always room for improvement. So you have to decide when the cutoff is. And I think that's really, really, really important for business owners or people that are operating any type of business to know when that cutoff is for themselves, because otherwise they could fixate on the wrong thing. Like you could spend weeks trying to figure out the logo when that's like probably the least important part of the other areas that you should probably get figured out.
And I mean, every business has rebranded their logo 1,000 times anyways.
Yeah. Just, it's better to get started.
I just created my logo on Canva. And I'm like, that's good enough.
Nice.
Run with it. And I'm already on like the fourth iteration.
How did you do the video introductions? Did you pay somebody on Fiverr or something, or make it yourself?
So that's a mix. So I like getting skills, as you can tell, which is great for knowing a bunch of stuff. It's horrible for drilling down on one thing. But it lets me drill down eventually. So there's Envato Elements. If you ever want just a single thing, you can buy from Envato. So say you want an opener or whatever. But if you buy Envato Elements, there's a lot of things you can buy there. And it's just a yearly subscription. So not buy there, but you buy the yearly subscription, you get access to a lot of assets. So, but they're still needed to get customized. So they're templates. So I've opened up After Effects. I've opened up Illustrator. I've opened up Photoshop. I've opened up Premiere. I've opened up Adobe Audition so I use Adobe Audition for editing my audio. I finally went through enough tutorials to figure out how I like it, make it crisp. And I'm probably still going to try to see if I can tweak it again later. I've looked up After Effects for different things. Like I use After Effects for the visualizer that I've been using in my recent episodes. And that's 100% made from a tutorial and not a template. So that was me tweaking it. But the intro itself is several assets and stock video and everything that I've cut, edited, and mushed together, and I edited myself. But some are templates that I pulled, some are overlays. So like some of them are videos with overlays and glitch effects that I ran through tutorials. So it's a mishmash of a bunch of things. And then like my outro is a template that I got from Envato Elements. So yeah, it's a combo of things. And then recently I've been using stock video again, because I've been noticing that I get a little bit better retention, but I don't like jump cutting too much and a bunch of sound effects, but I like visuals, but I don't like overstimulating visuals. So I'll do visuals, but you'll still hear the audio track. So it's easy to tune out, right? I don't have like a bunch of buzz and ding and that. Like
I do. I got all of those. I just shove that shit in my clips. But it's for short form content. For long-term content, I don't do that. And
it's fine. Like I've considered using that. It's just, I'm like, that adds my editing time. So I'm like, I'm trying to just get in a nice groove. So, and I like the way that I currently have it, because part of it is I like just talking about it.
Yeah, no, I when the first 2 episodes for Hackers to Founders, I did heavy editing in the clips. But I'm also the most proud of those ones too, because like, you know, Jordan mentions like some like legends in the hacking community. So then I can like look them up, and I do like a whole, almost an entire research like piece on each person he's like talks about. But like, yeah, the editing time, I literally had to spend, I think, 40 to 50 hours of editing just for those clips in that week. And I was like, this is not sustainable. I can't do this. So I've been able to cut it down to about 4 to 6 hours now. Not as high quality, but still, like, you know, it's okay.
So mine, I think I've cranked out an episode as quick as 2 hours, and a lot of mine hover around, I don't know, 3 to 5.
That include video?
Yeah, like everything. I can do everything in 2 hours.
Damn.
Including
the recording.
Yes.
Bro, that's like you record is like 45 minutes. So then like
No.
what do you mean no? Like the audio is like 45 minutes.
No, my audio is like 18 to 20 to 22.
Oh, okay.
So you might be listening back to back on episodes, but like on a 20
Maybe I am, yeah.
Hey, dude, I'm okay with that. Get my count up. So like on my 22-minute recent episode, I recorded 26 minutes of core content. And then I edited out like 2-3 minutes. So I minimal edit. I do a lot of like audio because I really love the quality of audio. I don't think I'm an audiophile, but I love audio. So I'm pretty close. I'm just not going to drop $1,000.
You're saying you're not an audiophile only because you know people that are way more of audiophiles than you. It's always that. I'm not an audiophile. I know I'm not. I know this mic is okay, and that's all I know. It is like acceptable for this. Let's just say it's okay.
Oh, so like I dropped on the Shure SM7B and like the Cloud Lifter and all that because I wanted to have like pristine, crisp, Joe Rogan-esque audio. Because I wanted to give myself the best chance of kind of being successful here. And now that I've been doing it for a while, it's like good audio is important, good personality is important, and consistency is important. And I finally have consistency down. I think I have a decent video format. And I like the audio where it's at. I want to get a little bit better, but at that point, I'm just trying to tweak. It's diminishing returns, right? I'm tweaking a bunch of knobs to get like 1% better.
Yeah, I think I think another part would be distribution or like editing, depending on like how you want to do it. Like, because like distribution networks are like so critical for like growth, but it also depends on what kind of growth that you want to do. I think your content is, I feel like your content's like easier for people to digest because even if you're starting out, you can listen to your content and it's like it's good. They'll understand difficult things. I think mine's more niche or difficultly more niche.
I try to touch on everything because like, yes, there's times where I want to explain things to friends or, you know, acquaintances I know, and they're not programmers or cyber people at all. So like, I'll explain it and you'll hear me in the podcast where like, oh, you know, this is, and then I'll go into explaining. Oh, like right now, we talked about ransomware-as-a-service, right? So I'll explain ransomware is just a malicious piece of code that encrypts your whole computer and makes it unreadable without a key. And for my more technical people, that's fine. They can kind of like gloss over that part in their mind because I don't spend 20 minutes either explaining all the nitty gritties. But then my hope is to also produce content later for the people who want the more technical details. And I'm also wanting to do like some security research because there's always someone who's gonna be more technical, but doesn't mean I can't be technical. But I like to keep a nice mix where like you can listen to me, throw me in the background, and you don't have to be worried about me talking about how, you know, it's on the 4th bit where the offset is and you have to do 6 no-ops to get a slide down to whatever.
You gotta slide it down.
Yeah. So like I try to avoid that because I know most people are just listening to me on the side while they do things. Or they're listening to me in the car or whatever. But I want to produce tutorial content where I can actually touch on that. And for that, I want to bring up graphics because I love visuals. So, you know, I love like, it was Live Overflow, I think. And a few others were like, they have some cool.
This stuff's really good. And he's been doing it for, I don't think a decade, but he's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. So like some of them are the ones who give me inspiration. Like, okay, I have knowledge. I know where I can come in and I have an interest in just diving deeper into a bunch of stuff I know. So I'm like, I could make this into content, help other people, help myself. In college, I used to go to like study sessions, and I say study sessions because it ultimately ended up me being the group study leader. And I would just reteach the content because I learned really good by just teaching other people after.
Yeah, no, 100%. That you don't know a subject unless you like start trying to explain and teach to other people. So like, for this talk that I'm going to be doing for the Tennessee DEF CON group, like I had to pick out what I want to talk about. And then now that I'm like decided on what I need to talk about, I have to like review it so much to be like, so I understand what the I'm talking about. And like, it pushes me to be better.
It irks me, dude, when I'm like, well, it's this. And I'm like, what does that mean? No. Okay, hold on. Give me an hour. And I go and actually like write it down and I try to equate it to something else I know, which is what you'll see me do a lot on my show, where it's like the stuff I don't know, I try to make very good approximations based off my knowledge of programming, computer systems, architecture, and other different types of malware. Because sometimes I tend to not script my shows. I talk about it from, I'll read the article.
You don't script it?
No. I read the article ahead of time, and then I'll go through and then I'll break down the different things but that's all off the cuff. Like I might think about something before I go into the show, but there's no scripting, because scripting used to take me several hours. And I used to do 20, 30 hour episodes, and I couldn't sustain it because I had my workload. So I tried scripting, I tried all this, and it's like, I can't. So I got it down to where, like, if I really, really wanted to, I could probably crank out 2, 3, 4 episodes a week, but I think I'd burn out after a while. But I think I'm at the point where I'm a quick enough workflow that I could do it after my full-time job, after I put the kids to sleep for 2, 3 hours. My better videos take 4, but yeah, like I'm always looking for interesting things, right? So I don't count that as time, but I'll sit down, spend 10, 15 minutes reading it, understanding it, correlating it. Then not having the video up, like the way we have video, I've been doing the visualizer because it's easier for me to just pull up the podcast and immediately start recording. I don't have to set up the background. I don't have to make sure my hair is done. I don't have to set up lights. And then I just record. And then I cut out what I don't want, and everything's just based off my knowledge.
Yeah. Do you ever like slip up with the knowledge stuff, or do you like edit that part out, or how does that work? Because you're always pretty on point. And I'm like, whenever I have to talk about something live on here, I'm like, so computer, go burp.
Printers go burr.
Yeah.
No, so there's moments where I'm like, I don't like how that sounds. And sometimes I literally don't like how it sounds. Like I bump the mic and it's just, I don't like it. Or like I'll cough or I'll sneeze and I have to edit that out. But I do try to fact check myself when I'm editing to make sure that I said what I wanted to say. And there's been times where I let a couple things slip, or like, it's a bypass, and I call it a go around or workaround. So like, it's still technically right. But I mean, if I'm being honest, dude, there's like, we know one thing as one thing, but there's like 4 other ways that thing's known.
That's fine. I mean, it'd be different if you're like, oh man, what was this thing? It turned into a meme because of what they said, but it was like, yeah, Java, also known as JavaScript. Or something like
Yes, I know that one.
Did you see that?
I do have like this concern that I'm gonna like butcher something like that, and I'm like, I mean, dude, I've been a professional software engineer since technically late 2017, officially 2018. But I've done enough overtime, I've done enough side projects, I've done enough geeking out. I've been looking up technical stuff since I was like early college, high school. I just didn't have the programming side where it's like, I trust myself to not say JavaScript is Java. Well, I mean, even then, like JavaScript, they just wanted to jump on the Java train. It actually had nothing to do with anything else beyond like, hey, Java's popular, let's make JavaScript, because it's actually also called, I think, ECMAScript. And then
I don't know.
I don't know. There, I could be butchering that one. There, I would have to fact check myself in editing. I think it might be called, or used to be called, ECMAScript, something like that.
You'll be surprised to know. Like, so when I was in college, I grabbed all of the curriculum for computer science, and I wanted to study the best ones. I was like, okay, like what are they learning in this class? What are they learning in that class? What books are they utilizing? And then kind of go from there, and then compare it to my SF State one. Most universities, if it was Ivy League, they would go into C and lower level stuff. But like for my university, State, we didn't. The deepest we went was Java for computer science. For computer engineering, they did go to C. But it's super interesting because like most people that have taken computer science now, they don't know what a compiler is. And it's, I don't know. I think it's a loss because it's like, bro, that's not, you don't know computer science, that do you really? Like, maybe they're teaching you to be able to, I understand why they don't go over it, because they want to focus on getting you market ready for working on Amazon or whatever. And if you're doing different web development, fine. But I don't know. At that point, it's like, it's not true computer science as like, what is the science of what can be computed, because you don't understand computers enough to be able to determine what is the possibilities of computations and the reasons why you would use one language versus another, things like this.
So what's funny is I did 1 to 2 semesters of Java, and then everything else that I ever did there was C. Like not even C++, like just straight C. I did systems programming where like I learned how to do pipes, files, forking, killing child processes. Like I learned everything. And then it took architecture where I actually started learning like the stack and the heap and the pointer controls and technically how you can do buffer overflows. And then what's cool is there was a professor there at the time and his name was Dr. Menard or Dr. Maynard, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And he was famous, dude. Where the whole school, like if you wanted to do cyber, you don't do the business side cyber. You go do computer science and you take a security course. But the only way to get into it is to get a good enough grade on his systems programming class. And when we talked to him, he was supposed to retire. And me and a bunch of friends were like almost asking him, like begging, like, could you just stay on a little bit more for our class? And he stayed on. He stayed on for our class because he had done the systems class. And then the following year, he no longer taught systems. So that way he could leave the year after. And he retired. But his security class, dude, was intense. And that's where I really fell in love with cyber. And I thought I could do some of the technical skills. So we went through Wi-Fi cracking. We went through buffer overflows, format string vulnerabilities. He set up vulnerable servers where like we had to netcat and build a reverse shell and kick our other classmates off the server. And he set up an entire lab where like these computers were not connected to the school network directly. We had to image them with, I think it was Magia Linux. I forget the exact name, but we had to image the computers. They were only coded to us. And what I mean by that is like, we are the admin, the root, we set them up and then they get wiped at the end of the semester for the next round of people. We did file forensics where like we loaded malware and loaded other stuff and like we had to pull like, he set up at one point a honeypot and he had all the network traffic. So we'd have to expand it in Wireshark and then we'd have to figure out and write up a write-up of how the hacker got in, what kind of files they might have downloaded. And then he would give us the file, the file system that was DD'd and create a copy of, and we have to mount it and then start going through the file system to find the different artifacts that were like thrown by the hacker. And then he did different things like he offset the file system by a byte. So you have to learn how to do offset a byte. And he would hide images like his vacation images. He had pictures of like turtles and him scuba diving and he would hide that throughout the file system. So you had to learn how to do DD, string, different lookups, mount, offset, and like you would DD a little chunk of a file system offline and then try to read it as a JPEG and see if it would read. And he did so many other cool stuff. But the coolest part about it is you wouldn't just give a write-up and submit it. You would make the write-up and then he would sit down with every student in the class and you'd have to walk him through how you did it. And it was so nerve-wracking for some people. I was working on an assignment and this guy in front of me couldn't even get through the basics of, I think it was WEP cracking for the Wi-Fi. And the professor's like, you should drop my class. You're not going to make it. And it was like, it freaked me out. Like I was already like gone through.
Yeah.
At the time, the 1080 had just come out and I bought a 1080 because he had password cracking assignments. And I think at the time I was like the 10th or 12th person in the entirety of like all his classes to crack that password assignment to the fullest, like to get a perfect score on it. Because now with like 3090s, 4090s, that one's probably easy. So he had to bump it up. But it was like a 12 random character alphanumeric lead.
12's a lot. Wow.
Yeah. So, and the 1080 did it. Like I had my 1080 cracking for like 4 or 5 days straight to get that one while I worked on some other stuff.
That's ridiculous. What was the other option? You like upload to like crack station or something like this?
No, you were supposed to do it manually and with
That's ridiculous.
But that's what made the class so interesting because I had one buddy and he was really cool. He ended up I think working for Amazon, but he rented some AWS GPU instance to crack it. And I'm like, that's
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you'd have to rent or utilize another platform because, like, what if you don't physically have a freaking? How much was it at the time? Like $1,900, something ridiculous.
No, 1080 was like 900, 1,000. Dude, GPUs have gotten so inflated since I was like trying to get stuff where like things are. I've seen I think the 4090s go for like $1,800. See, I got mine from Alienware discounted. Because I think they were liquidating. I don't know why, but I got the whole machine for like $3,000. and it's an i9 64 gigs, 2 terabyte 4090. And it was like 27 and then 29 after taxes and all that jazz. Eventually I'll play a game on it, but right now I was just using it for AI and some
Minecraft.
Oh yeah, dude. Minecraft with the ultra real textures or whatever the new high def.
They have that AI now they have AI that's generating. Have you heard about this? They have AI that's like generating games now based on frame by frame. So there's no game engine anymore, and it'll just take the frame and like you'll do something, and I'll be like, oh, I think that the next image should look like this. So there's an entire Minecraft game where it's completely AI generated.
And Doom, I think. Yeah, I was reading that one. So I think Doom and Minecraft.
Doom was the first one I saw. Yeah.
But can it run Doom? And the answer is yeah, it can. Run Doom.
Can your toaster run Doom? Yeah.
I think the funniest one I saw was like the old MacBook Pros that had the touch bar. They got Doom to run on the touch bar.
The touch bar? Oh, on top of the thing?
Yeah. So I think they got Doom to
I hated those designs. Is that still...
No.
Things? Thank God.
I think when the M1s came out, the cheaper, smaller Pro was still using that, but it wasn't like... I don't remember. But yeah, I didn't like the touch bar either. I thought that was
dumb. I hated how they like changed the keyboard as well with the keys.
Oh, the butterfly or something like that?
Yes. I don't know which ones. I like the more clicky the better for me.
Yeah.
It's like
I use mechanical for like my Windows machines and all that.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
What's funny enough, dude, is I've switched between being a Apple fanboy and Android fanboy my entire like life. Well, like I've had an iPhone and then I switched to Android and then I switched to iPhone and then I switched
That's always the case. That's how I am. I always go back forth. Yeah.
Right now I have a love for the Pixels and I've gotten tired of Samsungs.
Pixel's sick. So I installed a Graphene OS on mine. Love it because you can virtualize different profiles. Oh, you have a whole talk on this at the B-Sides Columbia. That was my talk. I had to use that.
How hard is Graphene to install versus like Calyx? Because I had installed Calyx OS.
It's the same, I think. It's the exact same. You just flash the OS and put it on there. But it's privacy centric. I don't know. The different Android ones, you can have them without having the entire like Google suite of stuff on there. So then it's like not technically like a Google phone or whatever the case is. I think you can do it with the Pixel. Don't quote me on it, but I think the Pixel is a Google phone. So
yeah, I think it was Calyx that I installed because it does some anonymous, it proxies more or less. Like it lets you install some G services and it'll like man in the middle it for you, where like you're not giving stuff directly to Google, but it lets you install some of the like Google Play Store or G services or something like that. I gotta look that up to tell you like the details on that one.
There's a really interesting book I'm currently reading. It's like the Android malware book, and it's like for machine learning. It just got dropped this year, 2024. But it's like Android malware for machine learning, and it talks about like how different malware authors will get their code on devices, and like, you know, how they will try to bypass the Google Play Store, security mechanisms, stuff like that, how they'll use like secondary markets where you download them. But the most interesting one is because it's also all permission based too, right? So if you have the app and it's in the Google Play Store and then you install it, depending on the Android version that you have, depends on when they'll ask for permissions for you to use certain things, right? To bypass all of that, what some Chinese companies have done, they'll set up like a shell Chinese company, and then they'll contact a phone manufacturer, and then they'll say, hey, we'll develop some software for your phone. And then they'll get the software installed like operating system. So before, like, so it's like every single phone that's manufactured from there, they will have a vulnerable driver installed on it. So you're already fucked before you even buy the phone. And then usually like in there, like let's say I have a Chinese company and I'm doing software development for a Chinese phone manufacturer, and they have like multiple companies that are working with them. I'll put in like basically like a dropper into it, and then it'll be on the phones. And then when I want to call out to install more stuff, I'll have it done, and then the phone's hacked.
Oh, dude, yeah. I need to look more into that. Like I've seen some of the supply chains when it comes to like NPM packages and stuff like that. but I know there's more supply chain stuff I just haven't looked into. So that the fact they're setting up shell companies doesn't surprise me, but I haven't heard of that. So that's cool. Yeah, I try to bring in as much external stuff into an episode because, like, okay, you read the article, but there's a lot of context that I like to bring in because not everyone knows, maybe people don't know what an APT is. And I tend to reiterate that a lot, or people don't know what ransomware or different threat actors are, or etc. Like, you hear dancing bear, no one knows it's Russia. You hear apt, I don't know.
I hear bear, I immediately think of Russia, but yeah.
Well, you and me in cyber, right?
I do, yeah, because we're in cyber, yeah. But yeah, other people know. You're 100% right. I think actually one of the things I like about your content specifically is that it doesn't matter how tech inclined you need to be. Like, you still say what it is, what it could be related to, and it's in a short amount of time where I don't need to like dedicate like 45 minutes listening to a whole story or like an hour or even longer.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, sometimes I love long form podcasts, and sometimes I just want to know what's going on. But like, I've been noticing a couple of AI news things pop up, and I'm torn on that because I like the personal human touch of things, which is where like I'm probably going to keep exploit in the way that it is for a while, but I want to augment it and bring in some more technical episodes, but keep like because we're now it's a Thursday show, right? Keep my Thursday show the way it is right now and bring in like another series within exploit for like, hey, we're going to deep dive, or, we're going to look back. One of my buddies was actually recommending like, hey, you should go do like Stuxnet or the I Love You virus or one of those. Go do like a code review.
That'd be cool.
And bring it up.
Oh, code review would be sick. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I love the idea. So like do like a mini documentary of like, hey, it did all this. Let's go code review it.
Yeah.
Cause you see stuff like, I follow VX Underground, and I love what they do, that they just have like that huge malware library. So like, there's a part of me that, cool, let me go look into like malware research, and I could go do a code review. Cause, I think it's low level learning. I love what he says. It's like everything, you have the source code of everything if you know reverse engineering.
Yeah. I used to have some honeypots set up, and then I like put all of my malware on my GitHub, and I thought they were going to take it down. They haven't taken it down. So it's just, just got a shitload of samples up there, which is cool. I think it's all mobile. I think it was all WannaCry at the time, so there's a bunch of WannaCry samples.
See, WannaCry was cool. I have like a fascination. I have fascination with so many things. I have a fascination with like worms, because the idea of being able to just hijack execution, copy yourself, and go do it again. I think it was WannaCry was super popular. I think the I Love You virus was super popular.
I think we should probably start a reverse engineering for malware static and dynamic, and break down some big boy malware.
Yeah. See, so like that's like one of my buddies gave me the idea we're talking about. Is like, man, that sounds really cool. I got to go sit down on a Saturday and just go download the source code, just review it. Like if I was going to, PR it or critique it and just walk through it. Make some diagrams or something. I think it'd be super cool.
That would be such an easy show to do, because you could start with like the I Love You virus or something like that. You can start like with predated stuff and then break down like what did technology look like at the time, and you depending on if you wanted to go into like a documentary piece about like this is what the security was, and like there wasn't this much stuff, and then you get all the old heads or the OGs. It's like, yeah, I remember back then. Yeah.
Because then you get to like the super sophisticated stuff, like the Stuxnet with the SCADA stuff. And you could totally see the evolution of like where it went from like simple, benign.
That's the evolution, right? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
To like now you get like zero click RCE, sandbox breaking. There's so many like buzzwords on like the more significant, like not bugs, but the vulnerability 0 days exploits, right?
They're like, chains now. Yeah. It's not just one. It's like, okay, you got access, great, you're in. It's like, no, now you need to escalate privilege. Now you need to establish persistency. Now you need to call back. You got to make sure, there's so much more. So, all that.
Well, on mobile side, right? Because on Windows side, you still have things. I mean, WannaCry is what, 5 years old? 6 years old?
Yeah. It's 2017, I think, 2018 maybe. So 2 plus 6, 7.
Yeah, 7 years old. And I'm pretty sure that was what leaked from some NSA tools. I think, if I remember, I forget what was the stuff.
WannaCry?
Yeah, I think the SMB
was it the blue?
Yeah, Eternal Blue. And I think that was linked to it. I could be misremembering things. I'd actually have to go look through a couple articles, but like, okay, so this is what I mean, right? I got to spot check a couple things when I'm editing, but I also acknowledge that somebody's in the position I was several years ago. So it's like, I can help them. And the guy who's smarter than me, maybe he wants to listen to me, maybe he doesn't, but that's
the way to do it.
Yeah. I like to think that you can always get better than you were yesterday. And that's all you should really be comparing yourself to.
Yeah, the person that you were yesterday, or it doesn't have to be directly yesterday, but like in the past, and like how far have you grown and stuff like that. I've actually, just personal topic now, like I on Google Forms, I have like a daily, a weekly, and a monthly. I started the weekly and monthly recently, but I have these like progress reports, and I talk about what did you do today? What did you do yesterday that went well? What could have gone better? And what are you looking forward to do in the future? And I've been doing these since like the past, like I think it dates back like 2020 or 2019. So I almost have like 5 years of records of myself, kind of like journaling and stuff like that, but it's like informed. So like I can just like look back and kind of see like what I like. One of them is like, hey, so what are your thoughts? What's going on right now? So then it's just me like dumping all my stuff. And then I go into like process mode of like what I should be doing. But I'll read back some of the things that like I thought about at those times. And it's like, wow, I was so stressed about that stuff. And like, did it matter? I was like, yeah, but like, I don't know if I had to be as stressed about it kind of thing. And it just kind of puts things in perspective a lot more. And it makes me feel more comfortable about like where I'm at. Sometimes I feel like I'm super behind on everything. Like, you know, you learn about something. It's like, oh, wow, look at this new rabbit hole. And like, you'll read other people's research and it's like, everyone's talking about this. Everyone knows this stuff. How come I don't know this? And it's like, damn it. And then I like try to learn it and stuff like that. And then, you know, you get in your own head kind of thing.
Dude, I'm the same way. So I've journaled on and off, mainly because it's like I find it hard to stick to it. But I've done it on and off. I tried keeping a planner and stuff. But yeah, dude, like I look at my code from a year ago or 5 years ago.
Oh God!
It's like, oh yeah, dude, I'm so much better. There was a recent moment where it's like, oh man, I hate this. Who wrote this? It's like, oh cool. No, I mean, I love this. I totally. I would do it a different way, but it's awesome.
I wrote this.
Yeah, no, it was me. It was me. I can't throw the blame. It was me. And then I even look at like, because if I compare who I am as a developer with the podcast, like everything I'm doing now in my life now compared to like 7 years ago, it's night and day. And like, I think I'm becoming the kind of person, I guess, if you could say, where like younger me was like, oh, I'd love to have this. I'd love to have this. I'd love to have this. It's like, I'm kind of there. I have a show. I have a career. And there's only more things I can do. It's not like I hit my goal. It's like, nope, new goals. Move on to the next thing, which is like, okay, I want to grow the channel. I want to go and, do some security research. I want to go and maybe make a book. Like there's a couple different things I have that I'm like, I want to work on. And then I see some of the like no starch press guys and all that. It's like, man, that's awesome. I want to do that. I want to figure out how to get to like their level and something else.
Like write a no starch press book.
Yeah. That's like,
yeah.
I don't know, it's like a 5-year goal, 7-year goal. Like I'd love to do it. I just don't have a topic. It's just like, I know I want to, I don't know what. The problem is I don't have like a good concrete idea. Like, cause like I said, right, there's so many things I touch on and so many things that I'm familiar with, but I need to go and deep dive into a few things. So I'm probably going to spend some time to figure out what things I want to drill into and then go from there. Like, hey, I've done, cause like, okay, I could probably write like a pipeline book on like how to get large amounts of data through a pipeline.
Yeah, I don't think there is a pipeline book in No Starch Press right now, is there?
I don't know. So I don't necessarily buy No Starch Press books. I have something called Safari Books Online or O'Reilly.com, depending on how. So it's a monthly subscription that gives me access to like tons of technical books and even some courses and stuff. Yeah, I need that's what I'm saying. Like I have a couple that I'm finally working through. I think it was the Bug Bounty Hunters Field Guide or something. One of those
the new one or the old one? There's a Bug Hunter one. There's like a newer one. Yeah,
the new-ish one. Like I finally got into reading books this past year or two, and I was doing a lot of fantasy, so I'm trying to like translate that to the more technical side. But like this past couple months have just been kind of thrown off by like the master's program, because suddenly I'm cranking out like tons on it. So I'm almost done with it, and once it's done, I feel like I finally have a groove for studying going, and I'm gonna just apply that to diving in deeper onto some stuff. But yeah, Safari Books Online is pretty cool. Hashtag not sponsored, but if they ever did want to sponsor me, I'm all for it. Yeah, because I love this stuff. It's just easy to go get access to like O'Reilly books, No Starch Press books, some of this.
So they have multiple book publishers on there, not just like O'Reilly.
I think the only ones I haven't seen often are the something with a W. I forget the name. Wiley Press.
Wiley?
Yeah. They might have some. because I think I was looking up ARM assembly a while back, and I don't think they had it. I didn't look hard. There was one specific with a blue fox, and I think the security researcher got sued by ARM or something like that. And
Azaria? Did she get sued by ARM?
Was it her? I don't remember.
She's the only one. She's most notable to be a fox. And I have that book too.
Yeah, it was a blue fox, and I think she was getting sued by ARM, or they sent her a letter. I don't remember what, but I remember I was like thinking, like, man, that sucks.
There it is. What is it? Looks like ARM wrote me a cease and desist letter to take down my domain arm-assembly.com advertised in my book on ARM.
Yeah. So like that happened. One I don't think I found on O'Reilly. So it's on my list of books to buy.
She doesn't seem happy about it.
No,
I don't think I would be either.
I'm 100% with her. I mean, to get a cease and desist suck, and to get something that's like, I mean, technically they control ARM, but it's also like, it's like saying, oh, well, Python. Like if you make a book called Python Programming, sure, maybe don't use their logo or whatever, but Python is you're still representing the thing. So I think it's unfair to her.
I don't know why they're so upset about it.
Yeah, there's some places that are just very like, no, it's our stuff. I know like Nintendo and a few other ones like to go trigger happy with suing everybody. So literally between like school, work, kids, the last game I played was like Halo Infinite with my brother-in-law, and we played online. And it's just like, I miss playing games, but at the same time, I'd rather work on the podcast, or I'd rather.
Yeah. We talked about this too. I think like I used to play video games, and now I don't. And like I so like I used to play StarCraft a lot when I was a kid, in college and stuff like that. And I think after college or whatever the case, about after that time, I was like, I just stopped playing games and started hacking. I was like, I'd rather spend my time hacking and doing something productive. Now, at least I'll say this like lightheartedly, because like I also don't game. I don't really like gaming. I don't really like doing much anything else in terms of like other than work stuff generally. But like for this week, I've been putting in between like 12 to 14 hours of like hardcore like fuzzing the Android kernel. So like at the end of it, I just like brain melt. I'm like, I just need to relax and put something else on. I've been playing The Sims, and I've been getting fucked over. I put me and my wife in there, and we play together. But we have like, we were supposed to have like, I was like, oh, let's have like 2 boys or something, maybe 3 boys. We had 1 girl, then we had another girl, then we had another girl, and then I was like, okay, I just got to look up how I'm supposed to have boys. And like the wife can either eat carrots or listen to alternative music. So I was like, okay, go listen to some alternative music. Cool. We get a boy. So now we have 3 girls, 1 boy. And I was like, we talked to her like, hey, you want another boy? I was like, yeah, we can have another boy. Okay. So then I had her listen to alternative music again, and then the baby comes out. It's a girl. And I was like, what the hell? And then another baby came out because she had twins, and I had another girl. And that's the max amount of characters you can have. You have 6 children. So I got 5 girls and 1 boy. And I'm like, oh my God. And the fun part of the game just is over. Not because of the girls, but because like now I got to manage like 6 different Sims at the same time. I'm like, okay, this was just relaxing. Now I'm ridiculously stressed. So I'm like, stop playing it.
That's where I'm at, dude. Like my brother-in-law recently asked me like, hey, are you going to play Black Ops 6? Because it's on Game Pass or something like that. And I'm like, maybe? Because like, okay, my problem was I really love like FPSs, but like Warzone and all that just had a bunch of hackers and cheaters. I know, we're talking about it, right? And they just made the game not fun. And I don't know what it is that apparently kernel anti-cheat is good enough to like ban a bunch of people, but not good enough to actually do its job all the time. I mean, they're probably trying, but it's cat and mouse, right? But yeah, so like and then, okay, say they're not cheating. There's some people who can play this like 20, 30 hours a week. And I'm over here like, I do like 1 hour
a 12-year-old kid, and he's just like, yeah, you fucking suck, grandpa. And like,
just like, shut up. Yeah. Dude, the freaking 12-year-olds have like, no, like that. I mean, I was there, right? Years ago.
Yeah. When you have no time to do anything, you got the whole world ahead of you. It's like, I'll just burn it on this game. Like, why not? And then you get really good. And, I was going to say, yeah, the other thing, I always wanted to get more into hacking games, right? And I I get to this point where like I'm gonna play the game and then I'm gonna like know all the ins and outs and then I'll start hacking it. But that never happens. I just start playing the game. I get super into it. I get to know the stuff, and then I'm like, okay, now maybe I can like learn to hack it and stuff. But at that point, I'm like, nah, I don't know. And then. But I'll say this, for the games I get, I've realized I just get sucked into. It's like crafting games where like you build the thing to make the other thing to make a better thing, and then you can build a base. Like I realized I haven't played Minecraft probably for the best, but like there's like a planet extractor or something like that, where you just like terraform a planet and do all this stuff and just building. But those games I'll just get sucked into playing, and all the time will go away, and then I wake up realizing like, oh shit, it's been like 20 hours, I haven't done shit, and I just feel terrible. I just feel absolutely shitty. Same with Civilization.
Dude, Warzone, when I was into it, I'm like, okay, just like 2 games. It's like an hour later. I'm like, that didn't feel like 2 games. Like I shot one person, died once, and got to the gulag. And that's like, that was like 30 minutes. I'm like, no, that's not a good ROI on my time.
Yeah. It's always like for those really good games, like especially for like multiplayer games, right? Like you're like, okay, I'll just play 2 games or whatever the case is. But then the games can like get up to like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And let's say you get a bad team. Then you're like, oh, this doesn't count. I need to get the different one. We're a good team, and like, okay, we lost. Well, I can't end on a losing streak. It's all this stuff. FPS though, like I try to avoid FPSs because I feel like it's so like flashy, like so it's like kind of like when you're just swiping on TikTok or Tinder and stuff like that, or not Tinder, but when you're swiping on like any social
Shorts,
media where it's just like
TikTok,
flash,
Reels,
yeah, like because it's like boom, 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 you die. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm back at it, and it's just like it's always like high pace energy.
Oh yeah, dude. So funny on that, and unrelated tangent. It's about to be noon, and then I was gonna go hit the gym and grab something to eat.
Nice.
Because I usually fast in the morning, and then I eat around noon, so it's about my lunchtime.
Oh,
yeah. I'm doing.
When do you have your first meal then?
Noon. I do. I try to do 8-16 intermittent fasting.
8-16.
Oh, sorry.
8 hours.
So 8 hours of eating, 16 hours of fasting. It got super popular. Sorry, my bad.
Okay, got it. I have no idea. Okay.
Yeah. So it's, you fast for 16 hours and then you eat for 8. So I usually try to do like noon to 7, noon to 8. I mean, I break that all the time, but it's like 80-20, right? I try to do it 80%, and then if I mess up 20%, not a big deal.
Okay. Oh, very cool. Thank you so much for your time, man. I know we've touched on like every single subject on the sun, but I really enjoyed talking with you. I think we could probably just keep on continuing talking forever. I'm very excited to see what you're going to produce and the next things that you're going to come out with in terms of your education platform, see where you're going to go with your master's as well as with work. And if you're interested in doing the malware stuff and we break some stuff apart, maybe we can do like a series on it. If both of us having time to do it.
Definitely, dude. I mean, yeah, it's been fun, dude. I want to thank you for having me on the show, and I wish you luck. I know this is a new thing you're sparking up to, so I mean, I'm happy to jump on. I'm happy we did this, and we'll definitely be in touch. I think a malware thing could definitely be something. It's just a matter of who, what, when, where, how.
Yeah, a lot of the time dedication, scheduling, and everything else, but yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Lauro. You've been a terrific guest.
Chris, thank you for having me, dude. I will catch you around.